One of the great strengths of the Democratic Party is the fine set of candidates we have running for office at all levels of American government. These candidates are all committed to the principles of opportunity, responsibility, and community that we as Democrats hold dear. We will now hear from many of our fine Democratic candidates for governor, for the United States Senate, and for the House of Representatives. As a former governor, President Clinton believes in a strong federal-state partnership in meeting America's challenges. One of the president's most effective state partners will introduce Democratic candidates for governor. Delaware Governor Tom Carper understands both sides of the federal-state partnership. As a former member of Congress and as a respected chief executive of his state, Tom Carper's Delaware is among the nation's leaders in 3 critical areas: finding private sector jobs for welfare recipients, collecting child support from absent fathers, and improving access to health insurance for all citizens. Please welcome Governor Tom Carper.
Thank you very much, Senator Mosley Braun, and to each and every one of you, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just preface my remarks briefly, if I can, to say on behalf of all of us from Delaware, everyone to Denver, from everyone from Bangor, Maine, to Brownsville, Texas, a big special thank you to everyone in Chicago who's worked on this convention, who's made us feel so welcome, and who's done a terrific job in making us erase 1968 forever and to remember 1996 forever. Thank you very much. Well, I would like to share with you this afternoon one governor's views on the transformation in welfare that's taking place in America today. Some of you may recall how welfare began 60 years ago with the noblest of intentions as a way to help widows with children. By the time Governor Bill Clinton ran for president in 1992, most welfare recipients were not widows with children. In fact, most of them had never been married. That year, 30% of the babies born in America were born to single moms, compared to just 5% in 1950. By 1992, 4 out of every 10 children would go to bed in a home where no father was present. Now, welfare alone did not create these problems. You know that, I know that. Many youngsters who grew up on welfare escaped lives of poverty to become self-sufficient and lead productive lives. Too many, however, did not. They were seduced, sometimes trapped by a system that too often robbed them of their dignity, that did not reward work, that did not foster personal responsibility, and that hastened the departure of fathers from homes, replacing them oftentimes with welfare checks. When Bill Clinton pledged to this convention and to this nation in 1992 to end welfare as we know it, many Americans stood and applauded with us. We knew that the time had come to change a system whose perverse incentives ensured that many people were better off staying on welfare instead of going to work. President Bill Clinton set out in 1993 to bring about change, and he began granting waivers to states, allowing them to try new approaches to fostering self-sufficiency. States across America are serving as laboratories of democracy today as we search for and find what works best in helping able-bodied Americans to prepare for jobs, to find jobs, and to keep working so that their families can enjoy better lives. Our president set forth several basic principles to guide our efforts to welfare reform. First, work should pay more than welfare. Second, welfare should be time-limited for most people and foster personal responsibility. Third, both parents have an obligation to meet the financial needs of their children. And finally, government policy should encourage the establishment of 2-parent families while discouraging the alarming rise in teenage pregnancy. The gridlock caused by congressional Republicans in 1994 effectively sidetracked, among other things, the enactment of meaningful welfare reform legislation in that year. And when a new Congress convened in 1995, the measured and reasoned changes espoused by our president were drowned out by extremists in the other party. Their game plan was simple: block grant almost everything, cut funding, provide states with great flexibility but require little accountability, raise taxes for working poor families, cut them for rich ones. Two times Congress passed welfare reform legislation that was soft on work and hard on kids. And 2 times our president stood in the breach and vetoed those bills. President Bill Clinton deserves our thanks. And just when it looked like comprehensive welfare reform might elude our nation once more, America's governors helped to jumpstart the debate in Washington earlier this year. I know of no one who is totally pleased with the compromise hammered out over the past 6 months. I also know that some of those least pleased met in San Diego 2 weeks ago. They could not celebrate mandating family caps in all 50 states. They could not celebrate the block granting of Medicaid, of child care, food stamps, child protection, child nutrition programs. Neither could they celebrate deep cuts in the Earned Income Tax Credit. Why not? Because none of those things happened. Our president, along with Democrats in Congress, refused to let them happen. They did, we did, what was right, and fought for common sense reforms tempered with compassion. And for the most part, we succeeded. Now, President Clinton has acknowledged that the welfare reform bill he signed last week was not perfect. But let us remember, the perfect should not be the enemy of the good. And this new law does many good things. Let me mention just a few. For example, it preserves the federal guarantee for Medicaid, for food stamps, for child nutrition and child protection programs. It prevents states from gutting their current levels of spending, which help those in need. The race to the bottom has been canceled. Moreover, President Clinton's Earned Income Tax Credit is preserved, and that effectively transforms a minimum wage job into one paying close to $7 an hour. Federal child care funding will grow by 40%. And even more important is the flexibility that state and local governments now will have, without federal waivers, to help people go to work and keep on working. The new law addresses one other critical issue, and that is child support. During the Clinton administration, child support collections have risen by 40%. Even so, some $50 billion in child support remains uncollected each year, and that pushes hundreds of thousands of youngsters into poverty. The child support enforcement provisions of this welfare reform bill will give states valuable tools to enable governors to find deadbeat parents and compel them to meet the financial needs of their children, just like the rest of us already do. In short, ladies and gentlemen, welfare as we know it is changing. And not just since last Thursday when the president signed the welfare reform bill into law. A quiet revolution has been underway for the past 3 years. Since 1993, listen to this, since 1993, welfare rolls in America are down by 1.6 million people. This revolution must continue, and it will. Our party and our nation, in conclusion, let me just say, our party and our nation were founded on a handful of core values: opportunity, personal responsibility, work, family, religious freedom, and community. Under the leadership of our president and our party, America is returning to those basic values. In doing so, present and future generations of America, whom otherwise might be condemned to live lives of hopelessness, have a better chance a real chance of emerging from the shadows of life and moving forward to realize the full potential that is the birthright of every American citizen. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next senator from Oregon, Tom Bruggere.
I'm Tom Bruggere, candidate for the U.S. Senate from the great state of Oregon. You know, I'm a little different from most of the folks who've spoken this week. I've never run for office before. I'm a former high-tech CEO of a very successful computer software company that I started in my living room. I grew up in a very working-class family. I served in Vietnam with the 1st Infantry Division, then went home to graduate school on the GI Bill. When I started my company, I also wanted to serve by setting an example in corporate America. There's more to success of a corporation or a country than just the bottom line. Both can care about people and support them not just as workers, but as families. That's what we did at my company, and I'm proud to say that my company now employs more than 2,000 people. But I'm even prouder that it has been recognized 3 times by Working Mother magazine as one of the top 100 places in America for mothers to work. I'm running for the U.S. Senate because I believe America is at a crossroads. The decisions we will make over the next several years will have a profound effect on generations to come, including our 7-year-old daughter, Maria, and our 5-year-old son, TC. We need leaders who care about American families, who understand their struggles, leaders who are committed to giving families every chance to take their rightful place in a story of opportunity, responsibility, and community, the American story. To take that place, they'll need economic security. They'll need the best education and training in the world. And they'll need to know that basic civil rights are guaranteed for all Americans. America must have leaders who believe in what this country can be and who will fight to make that vision a reality. The races that we face this fall will determine whether we have a country that cares about all Americans or that takes us to a survival of the fittest economically society. This is going to be a great year for Democrats. Thank you very much.
Please welcome the Governor of Missouri, Mel Carnahan.
Good afternoon. I'm Governor Mel Carnahan from Missouri. Most people know that our state's favorite son, President Harry Truman, kept a sign at his desk that read, "The buck stops here." What many of you do not know is that he kept a second sign there as well, a sign that reveals much more about his Missouri roots and our Missouri values. That sign carried the wisdom of another great Missourian, Mark Twain, and it said, "Always do right. This will gratify some people and astonish the rest." Today, in corporations and corner stores, farms and factories, kitchens and classrooms, the people of Missouri and this nation are following Mark Twain's advice. They're doing what's right for their families and their communities. And they deserve a governor and a president who devote every minute of every day to doing what's right for them. I'm committed to being that kind of governor, and I know Bill Clinton works every day to be that kind of president. Together, our Democratic team is providing common sense solutions to the problems that face all Missourians. And those solutions are working. In Missouri, we've created 300,000 new jobs. Our student test scores are outpacing the national average, and 35,000 Missourians have moved off welfare and into work. We're giving Missouri students the opportunities they need to prepare for the jobs of tomorrow. Opportunities like smaller classes, computers in classrooms, and a safer school. And we put more police on the streets and passed some of the toughest crime laws in the United States. Laws that keep most of our dangerous criminals behind bars an average of 10 years longer than ever before. Missouri is on the move, and we're seeing great results. And that's why voters must continue to keep our state and the rest of America moving forward by putting Democrats in the White House and the State House this November. Because we are the party that's making the real differences in the lives of real people. Under the leadership of President Bill Clinton, America has gained more than 10 million new jobs. We've reduced crime for 4 straight years, and we've created opportunities for working families. This is the kind of strong leadership Americans want, the kind of visionary leadership they deserve. And both President Clinton and I are committed to making this a better world for the generations to come. America's families are counting on us to do what's right for their future. Their hopes are literally in our hands. We cannot, we must not, we will not let them down. Thank
you. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next governor of West Virginia, Charlotte Pritt.
The Democratic nominee for governor from the beautiful state of West Virginia. For 15 years, I taught high school in West Virginia, and I loved teaching because it gave me a chance to help our young people dream and to help them turn their dreams into reality. I'm running for governor now because I still want to help people turn dreams into reality. And while you can take the teacher out of the classroom, it's hard to take the classroom out of the teacher. So that's why it's appropriate for me to hand out a few grades today. Let's take a look at the Republican report card. Republicans opposed a minimum wage increase for America's working families. So on jobs, they earned an F. Republicans tried to weaken our clean air and water laws. So on the environment, they earned an F. Republicans tried to cut Medicaid and Medicare. So on health care, they earned an F. Republicans tried to cut Social Security, so on seniors, they earned an F. Republicans tried to cut Head Start, school lunches, and student loans, so on education, they earned an F. Let's face it, Republicans just don't make the grade. Now, let's look at the Democratic report card. We gave working families a minimum wage increase and more than 10 million new jobs. So on jobs, Democrats earned an A. We fought for safe drinking water and to clean up toxic waste. So on the environment, we earned an A. With the help of our own J. Rockefeller, we allowed workers to keep their health insurance if they changed jobs, and we eliminated pre-existing conditions. So on health care, we earned an A. We saved Medicare and Social Security from the budget cutters in Congress. So on seniors, Democrats earned an A. We protected Head Start, school lunches, and student loans. So on education, Democrats earned an A. Now that's a report card every American voter can be proud of. Democrats know how to make the grade. Vote for the Democratic Party. Vote for the A team. Thank you and God bless you.
Please welcome Lee Kaldor. candidate for governor of North Dakota.
Thank you. We've heard a lot of talk about revolution from the Republicans, but there's been only one real revolution in the last 4 years, and Bill Clinton and Al Gore have led it. They've changed the culture of government. The era of big government is over. The era of better government has begun. The Clinton administration has made government more efficient and compassionate. They've given us government that honors American values, demands responsibility, and strengthens communities. Now the states must help finish what Bill Clinton has started. It's time to elect governors who are committed to seeing that economic growth and opportunity are shared fully. This is the promise at America's core, so strong it lured my great-grandfather from Norway and gave him the stamina to bring over his 4 brothers, their wives, and children, one at a time. It took them 13 years. Those pioneers lived in dugout riverbanks and log cabins and prevailed over North Dakota winters, drought, and flood. But the dream was worth it. The churches, schools, and communities that they built survive to this day. We are again living in a time of great economic change. We face new challenges, but must look to our old values to get through them. It is still the responsibility we have to each other, the education we give our children, the opportunities we create, and the communities we build together that will endure the pressures of change. The governors elected this November will have unprecedented power and responsibility to decide where government can help, and it has never been more important to elect governors who share our values. And in North Dakota, that means it's time for a change. In North Dakota, our sense of responsibility, respect for others, compassion, fairness, and integrity define our character and give me the faith and conviction to say that the best is still ahead. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former governor of Maine and Democratic senatorial candidate Joe Brennan of Maine.
I come before you today as a nominee for the U.S. Senate from Maine, and I can tell you that I have never seen the Democratic Party more united, more confident, and more committed to victory in November. Over the past 2 years, voters in Maine and across America have seen the direction that Newt Gingrich and the Republican Party would lead America, and they are rejecting it. And now the Democratic Party is pulling together to re-elect President Clinton and take back the Senate and take back the House. And we will win in Maine and in America because, as a famous Democrat said, we're right, they're wrong. This election is about economic fairness for working families, expanding education opportunities, and protecting a woman's right to choose, security for our senior citizens, a clean environment, a safer country, and most of all, it's about jobs. The Democratic record on all of these issues is clear, and our differences with Republicans are stark. Democrats fought to increase the minimum wage for 10 million American workers. Republicans opposed it with every fiber in their beings. Democrats worked to guarantee health insurance for America's seniors. Republican leaders want to let Medicare wither on the vine. Democrats believe college loan programs and Head Start are good investments in our children and in our future. The Republicans want to slash educational opportunities. Democrats understand that we must protect our air, our land, and our water from pollution. The Republicans want to gut the Environmental Enforcement Agency. Democrats are fighting crime by putting 100,000 more cops on the beat and by getting AK-47s and Uzis off the streets, and believe it is time to put ID tags and explosives to protect Americans from terrorists. While Republicans promised their friends from the NRA they would repeal the ban on assault weapons and block the effort to tag explosives. Democrats believe workers need real bargaining rights. Republicans fought against them and said no to workers' rights. Whether it's economic fairness, health care, education, or fighting crime, the Democrats are on the side of America's families, and the Republicans are against us on issue after issue. Shortly before I came out here from Maine, I spoke to a Republican voter, and he said, "Governor, I'm a Republican. I'm going to vote for you." And I asked him why. He said that Gingrich and the Republican Congress have gone too far. And that is why that Republican and millions of others around this country will be supporting Democrats this fall. Democrats understand there is no free lunch. But as Christopher Reeve powerfully reminded us in his courageous speech on Monday night, we have to take care of our American family, and that is what the Democratic agenda is about, taking care of the American family. And that is why we Democrats will win in November. Thank you very, very much.
Please welcome senatorial candidate, Congressman Jack Reed of Rhode Island.
My fellow Democrats and my fellow Americans, we came to the podium today as candidates, but we are all part of a greater cause. We are running not just to hold office, but become part of a new Democratic majority in the Senate that will stand with Bill Clinton for the jobs, the health care, the education, and the standard of life for working families and the middle class. When this happens, Medicare will be protected for the elderly instead of being cut to fund a tax cut for the wealthy. With Bill Clinton in the White House and a Democratic majority in the Senate, there will be no more attempts to auction off the environment, no more plans to permit pollution for profit, no more efforts to develop fragile wilderness areas, no more schemes to weaken the Clean Water Act, and no more deals to open up fragile coastal areas for offshore drilling. Last winter, Rhode Island experienced a massive spill from an oil barge. Those of us who saw it and worked to deal with it know that it is time for a Senate that cares less about rivers of oil industry cash for campaigns and more about the waters that sustain our beaches. With Bill Clinton in the White House and a Democratic majority in the Senate, there will be no more votes to cut education and slash student loans to pay for special interest giveaways. I come from a state where educational opportunity is the greatest legacy of a great senator whom I hope to have the honor of succeeding, Claiborne Pell. The Pell Grants have opened the doors of college for a generation of young Americans.
Please welcome candidate for the House of Representatives, Tom Allen of Maine.
I'm Tom Allen from Maine. I'm proud to stand here as the Democratic nominee for Congress from Maine's 1st District. On election night, when the first returns in America come in from Maine, I intend to take back the first seat we need to win back the Congress. Not simply for a party, but for working families everywhere. I'm running for Congress to fight for the jobs and wages of Maine people, including the employees of Hathaway Sure, not to promise people a deceptive tax cut that no one can deliver. I believe in strengthening Head Start and student loans, not taking from children in the dawn of life or slamming college doors shut. I believe no welfare reform can work without a new national initiative for quality, affordable child care. I believe that the environmental protections that Ed Muskie and George Mitchell worked so hard to create should not be dismantled by industry lobbyists or bartered away to polluters. I believe, as a former mayor, that schools and local officials should know that we will not pass the buck to them for our political gain. As Democrats, we share these beliefs, how different they are from the record and rhetoric on the other side. The Republican ticket has promised massive tax cuts, desperately hoping that a public that doesn't believe in a free lunch will believe in a free breakfast, lunch, and dinner. 2 years ago, my opponent, Jim Longley Jr., made a special trip to Washington to sign the contract with America. This year, he didn't even go to the Republican convention. We are here to tell the truth, not to traffic in easy answers. As Maine's Ed Muskie said in this city 28 years ago, to make a society such as ours work is not easy, but we will do our best. We all have the personal responsibility to improve our skills and adapt to a changing world, but none of us can do it alone. We all need help sometimes. A community is far more than a collection of isolated individuals seeking personal gain. A community is where we live, raise our children, send them to school, go to church, and if we are fortunate, live out our lives in hope and dignity. Let us prosper together and advance together. Early on the evening of November 5th, in Maine's 1st District, I believe we will start a Democratic wave that will roll across this nation and give all Americans a Congress more in touch with their needs and values. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome congressional candidate Tom Fricano of New York.
Good afternoon. It is an honor to address the delegates of the 1996 Democratic Convention. My name is Tom Fricano, and I'm running against Susan Molinari's husband. In June 1995, my wife Susie and I were driving down a road heading into my small hometown of Silver Creek, New York, on the way to deliver the commencement address at the high school I had graduated from 38 years before. We passed a billboard which read, "Hate and rage are four-letter words, but so are love and hope." I said to Susie, "That's it. That's what I want to tell these young people, about love and hope, because my life has been filled with a lot of both." But unfortunately, in June of 1995, thanks to Newt Gingrich and his lieutenant, my opponent Bill Paxton, hope was under siege, as was the future for these young people. I know what it means to raise 3 children. I worked at General Motors while earning a college degree. My wife and I made sacrifices, as our parents had done, to make a better life for our children. It wasn't easy. But today, Newt Gingrich and Bill Paxton want to make that impossible for young couples. They want to force our middle-class families to choose between saving for their children's education and taking care of their aging parents. Where's the hope in that? Where's the hope for our parents whose Medicare Newt Gingrich and Bill Paxton want to cut? Where's the hope for young people graduating from high school whose student loans Newt Gingrich and Bill Paxton want to cut? And where's the hope for the person who wants to retire when Newt Gingrich and Bill Paxton decide to let companies raid the pensions they've counted on their whole lives? I was taught by my parents and grandparents to work hard and to care about people. I grew up in a house filled with love and hope, a family that treasured its children and looked out for our neighbors. As a leader in the United Auto Workers, I've learned that the art of compromise, not confrontation, is crucial. Whether in a marriage, in union negotiations between labor and management, or in the halls of Congress, success can only be achieved when there is give and take and a willingness to work together I've done this as a labor leader, and I pledge to do the same in Washington. What I stand for is what we all stand for. It's taking America forward to a place where hard-working families have a chance to make something of themselves. I want to be able to go back to my high school's graduation next year as a congressman to tell them what we have done to restore hope in Washington. When the question is asked, what did you do when your country needed help? Let it be said that Tom Fricano did not stay in the dugout. He came to home plate to help the president keep America on track. And on November 5th, the people of the 27th District will help us to hit a home run over the center field wall and send a message throughout this great land that we chose love and hope for our agenda. It's the right agenda for New York and the right agenda for America. Thank you very much.
Please welcome candidate for Congress from New Jersey, Mayor Bill Pascrell.
I first decided to run for Congress because I was taught at an early age, if something isn't working well, do something about it. If you don't like the way things are, don't just sit on your hands. Step forward. For me, that is what this campaign is all about. This was not an easy decision. Right now, I am mayor of my hometown, city which I was born and raised, city that welcomed my grandparents when they immigrated to this country, the city that has offered opportunity to 4 successive generations of my family, the city that has welcomed and is home for 52 different ethnic groups. Patterson was founded more than 200 years ago by Alexander Hamilton. He had a vision of a unified city dedicated to progress and opportunity. The result was America's first industrialized community. We are still bound together by that shared commitment, and I believe we can revive this spirit throughout America. How many times have we heard those words in the song, America the Beautiful? God shed his grace on thee. On thee, not on a few of us, not on most of us, but all of us. This is a message the present Congress just isn't getting. This Congress hasn't unified America. It is dividing our nation in the pursuit of their narrow ideological agenda. If there is one lesson I've learned in all my years of public service, it's that there is no Democrat or Republican way to clean the streets. The Republicans are cutting what they should be protecting and protecting what they should be cutting. They tell us they're trying to save Medicare. They tell the healthcare lobby they want Medicare to wither on the vine. They say they'll improve education, but they promise the bankers they'll eliminate the direct student loan program. They've pledged to balance the budget in 6 years, but they wink at the wealthiest Americans and promise a rollback in their taxes. Well, at least they're telling the truth half the time. That's not good enough. Congress should be about giving people reason to have faith in their government again. It's not about taking from one group and giving to another. It's about giving everyone the opportunity to do their best. It's not about Newt Gingrich's priorities, it's about America's priorities. Working families have no reason to believe Republicans in Congress have any clue about life on the edge of unemployment, and that is simply unacceptable. I'm not willing to throw up my hands and walk away. The road ahead is a difficult one. God willing, with your help, we can win in November. This is not a personal campaign for Congress. This is our campaign for America's working families. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome candidate for Congress, Pete Navarro of California.
Thank you, California. Thank you, President Clinton. And hello, America. It's a great honor to be here tonight, and I'm proud to be carrying the Clinton-Gore banner for San Diego's 49th Congressional District. San Diego is my home, and the home of a lot of hard-working people and wonderful families. It is also home to the Navy's mighty Pacific Fleet, and it's the cradle of our biotech and telecommunication industries that will provide new, high-wage jobs for the next century. On November 5th, all eyes will be on San Diego, because on Election Day, San Diegans will be choosing not just a new congressperson, but to a great degree, a new Speaker of the House as well. Even the Republicans agree that my district is a must-win district in the battle for control of the House of Representatives. On the environment, President Clinton strongly believes, as I do, that we must mend our environmental regulations, not end them. We must not give in to those who would weaken our clean air and clean water regulations that are so important to the people in my district, in Imperial Beach, in Mission Beach, in Pacific Beach. On education, my district has more than 100,000 students in 6 major colleges and universities. I teach some of them business and economics. And nothing has disappointed these young people more than the cuts in student loans proposed by the Gingrich Congress. On the economy, America is now in the midst of a robust recovery, and I can feel it in the hope and optimism here tonight. But as a business economist, I also deal every day in facts. I can tell you that the job of economic recovery is only half done. As I walk door to door in Serra Mesa, in Linda Vista, in Claremont, many working families are still feeling real pain from the loss of our aerospace and defense jobs. And that's why I want to work with President Clinton to bring economic renewal and high-wage jobs to San Diego. Make no mistake, there are big differences between we Democrats and our opponents. And as we debate them, we owe it to the voters to keep our campaigns on the high road. I have in the past participated in negative campaigning, and I regret it deeply. I let my supporters down, and I apologize. For we must stress the positive ideas for which we are fighting. And we must believe that America's best days are before us, and that those of us who earn the privilege to serve must give the very best that is within us. So I say, let's win one for hope. For the man from hope, Bill Clinton. And to all my fellow San Diegans, I say, this is the vote of your life. Stand up and be counted. And together with President Clinton, we will protect Medicare and Social Security and a woman's right to choose. And we will bring hope and pride and community and opportunity and responsibility to our future. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome candidate for Congress, Montgomery County Commissioner, Joe Huffle of Pennsylvania.
Many people have asked why I'm running for Congress. The answer is simple. I am running to help make America a better place for my children, Mary and Jake, and your children, for my parents and your parents. My generation has been truly blessed. We grew up with a sense of unlimited hope in America and ourselves. To us, the American dream knew no limits. We understand that such boundless optimism was the result of the hard work and great sacrifices made by a truly heroic generation of Americans. Now it's our turn. We have obligations not only to make America better for our kids, but also for our parents. It's our turn to make tough choices and provide real leadership for the American people. Bill Clinton is willing to make those choices and provide that leadership. Today, I am here to offer my promise to do the same. I have raised a family, run a county, and represented my neighbors. I know how government works. I also know how government fails. We cannot make America better by following the voodoo economics of the supply side. We cannot make America better by caving into the intolerance of the Christian coalition. And we cannot make America better by letting politicians like Newt Gingrich and John Fox keep control of our federal government. We will make America better by balancing the budget, creating opportunities for working families, protecting retirement security, and fighting for real family values. How do we meet these challenges? We will balance the budget with prudence and fairness, working together to cut waste and lower taxes. We will create opportunities for working families by targeting our tax breaks and standing up for real improvements in education and job training. We will protect retirement security by fighting attempts to cut Medicare, by preserving Social Security, and by protecting private pensions from the corporate raiders. Finally, we will fight for real family values by treating every American family as if it were our own. Why do I support full funding for public schools? Because my own kids go to public schools. Why do I support policies that keep families together, protect the rights of women, and promote a clean, safe environment? Because I love and respect my wife and children and want others to share the joy I experience every day. That's why I'm running for Congress, and that's why we are Democrats. We must continue the fight for a better republic, a brighter future, and an ever more vibrant American dream. Thank you.
Please welcome congressional candidate and the former chair of the New Hampshire Democratic Party, Joe Keefe.
Good afternoon. I'm Joe Keefe, and I intend to be the next congressman from New Hampshire's 1st District. For too long, the political discourse in this country has been dominated by two opposing camps. Those who think government can solve all our problems, and those who think that government creates all our problems. Both are wrong. We need to find a third way. If we elect those who believe government is the cause of all our problems, then we risk electing a Congress much like the one we elected in 1994, that spends all its time throwing bombs without looking at who's getting hurt, cutting Medicare to finance tax cuts for the wealthy, cutting student loans and other education programs, fuel assistance for the elderly, environmental protection, while raising taxes on the working poor. This Congress has its priorities upside down. When this crowd talks about cutting big government, they're talking about Head Start for 5-year-olds, and student loans for school lunches for 10-year-olds, safe and drug-free schools for 15-year-olds, and student loans for 20-year-olds. That's wrong, and that's not the kind of change American families need. If we are to reduce the deficit and provide tax relief to working families, then we must be willing to take on the special interests and close the giant loopholes and subsidies that they have been able to carve out for themselves. It's time to end corporate welfare. It's time to end tobacco subsidies. It's time to stop subsidizing corporations that move jobs overseas. By standing up to the special interests, we will stand up for working families and small businessmen and women and their children and their future. And if we do, then we will win, and we will deserve to win. Thank you, and God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome candidate for Congress, former State Senator Debbie Stabenow of Michigan.
I'm happy to be here today representing the great state of Michigan. You know, nearly 1 out of 4 freshman Republican members of Congress are millionaires. That simple fact speaks volumes about this Congress. Out of step, out of touch, not getting it, and not understanding why they should. Granting tax breaks to billionaires while threatening Medicare. Cutting student loans, environmental protection, and education, all to afford a $245 billion tax break to the wealthy. Millions of American families are feeling stretched on all sides, stretched by work and bills and parenting and worries about their future and the future of their children, hoping all the while for just a little time to sit down and share a meal as a family. The Gingrich Congress has shown that they can't relate to the kitchen table worries and concerns of America's hardworking families. Thank goodness President Clinton does. There's an extra bedroom in my house. It used to be my son's before he went away to college. He and his younger sister want very much to become independent, and I want that for them as well. Nonetheless, like so many young people these days, Todd and Michelle may have a hard time finding a secure, good-paying job. And if that's the case, I want them to know that as long as I have a home, they have a home. Then there's my mom. She's an active, youthful retiree. But what if Medicare isn't there for her? What if she becomes ill? I owe my mom everything. And if she's in need, I'll be there for her, just as she's been there for me. So one of the big questions at my house may sometime be, who gets the extra bedroom? You know, that's not an absurd question, nor is it an unusual one. It's one of those silent questions that weigh so heavily upon the minds of millions of American families. We need a Congress that can relate to the squeeze that so many of us feel. A Congress that understands that hardworking families are torn often between their sense of love and responsibility to their children and the huge debt of gratitude we feel to our parents and our grandparents. We need representatives in Congress with the right values, balancing the budget just as so many middle-class families work hard to balance their budgets at the kitchen tables all across Michigan and all across America. I just want you to know, as a new Congresswoman from Michigan in the 105th Congress, I'll fight for the things that really matter to your family, because it's my fight too. Thank you so much. God bless America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from the great state of Arkansas, congressional candidate Marion Berry.
My name is Marion Berry. I'm a candidate for the 1st Congressional District in Arkansas. I am proud to be from Arkansas, the home of President Bill Clinton and First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton. I'm a farmer and businessman. My experience began in the rice and soybean fields in Arkansas's Grand Prairie, in a village. I've run a farm and a small business most of my life, and I know what it's like to meet a payroll. I know what it's like to get enough money to educate and raise children. Our part of Arkansas has a wonderful natural resource base and some of the hardest working people in the world. We have a plentiful supply of water, and it makes our farmers some of the most productive in the world. We're the 2nd largest steel producing district in the United States for the same reason. My first task as a congressman will be to work for the continued economic growth of our region. Our public servants have the responsibility to act as leaders. Leadership that reforms welfare, reduces the size of government, protects the environment, educates our people, and provides for our seniors, our children, and our veterans. Leaders have to see that good decisions are made, money is spent wisely, and people are told the truth. But I have never seen individuals or groups of people that are so willing to treat people unfairly for the enrichment of special interests as the Republicans in this Congress. They want to cut Medicare and balance the budget on the backs of our senior citizens. When you travel the roads of the 1st Congressional District, as I do, and talk to senior citizens that are living only on Social Security and Medicare, some of them are already making the decision between food and medicine. Ask them what's going to happen when they increase the cost of Medicare and deduct another $10 a month from their Social Security. For many, this means that they won't have as much food on the table. Now that's a cut. My opponent ran for Congress 2 years ago and signed the contract with America. But to hear him talk now, you would think someone else signed that contract for him. The people of Arkansas have a great deal of common sense. They saw the contract for what it was 2 years ago, and they will again. They know that real leadership understands we must work together to succeed at almost everything we do in life. And together we can accomplish great things. Without a doubt, the best is yet to come. And together we will be victorious.
Please welcome congressional candidate Judy Hancock of Kansas.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Kansans, and fellow Americans. As a small businesswoman, helping American companies develop new markets and develop new customers around the world, I've had the opportunity to see America through the eyes of the world. In Poland a few years ago, a gentleman gave me the best description of what I believe our nation is all about. He called America a country of maybes, explaining that under communism, Poland had been a place of rigid yes and no. Yes, you must do this. No, you may not do that. but he saw America as a country where anything may be possible if you are willing to try. But the radical agenda of Newt Gingrich and his zealous followers, like my opponent, seek to deny opportunity to many to benefit the already powerful and privileged. That radical agenda would cut educational opportunities our children desperately need to compete in order to fund weapon systems the Pentagon itself says it doesn't need. The Gingrich agenda says the way to make our communities safer is to repeal the assault weapons ban. And my opponent goes even further by seeking to permit the carrying of concealed weapons. And that agenda has the same unfair response to both balancing the budget and providing needed tax relief, to make average working families bear the biggest burden while the wealthiest Americans reap the greatest benefit. The 3rd District of Kansas is the heart of America in more than geography. We reject the extreme Gingrich agenda, and we share the desire of all Americans, irrespective of geographic region or political party, for a return to common sense, civility, and mainstream values in our government, to make sure that our country remains a country of maybes, where dreams are possible and the doors to opportunity are open to all. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome congressional candidate, Illinois State Representative Jay Hoffman.
To anyone who watched the Republican convention 2 weeks ago, their strategy for 1996 should be crystal clear. You know, they want the American people to forgive and forget what they tried to do after capturing the Congress in 1994. They hid Newt Gingrich in the closet and didn't let him see the light of day. They never once mentioned their plans to cut Medicare, Medicaid, college student loans, and allow companies to raid workers' pensions while giving tax breaks to the rich. They tried to make themselves look mainstream. But we as Democrats cannot let the American people forget what they tried to do. We as Democrats must stick to our roots of helping working families help themselves, our roots of encouraging hard work and personal responsibility, of fighting to ensure families can give their children the same opportunities that we had. These are the things the Democratic Party has always stood for, and these are the same principles that will win us the Congress and the presidency in 1996. The congressional seat I'm seeking is a seat once held by Abraham Lincoln. I'd say that if Lincoln were alive today, he would not recognize the Republican Party that Newt Gingrich and Bob Dole now lead. Like Lincoln, it's the Democrats who have tried to unify and heal divisions among Americans, not aggravate and divide them. It's the Democrats who have attacked the deficit in a sensible and compassionate way. Like Lincoln, it's the Democrats who have said that if you are willing to be responsible for yourselves, we're willing to give you a hand up, not a handout. It's the Democrats who have offered real tax relief for working families and an economy that is the strongest it has been in decades. It's the Democrats who have fought and won the battle to increase the minimum wage and give the American people a much-deserved pay raise. What will happen if we don't re-elect Bill Clinton and take Congress back? It'll be a step back in time for America. This week, Democrats have a clear opportunity to bring the American people together like Lincoln did. We have to go back to our states, our cities, and our communities and take our message of responsibility, opportunity, community, and hope to working Americans. Newt, we may forgive, but we will not forget. We'll spread the word to the shops, in the restaurants, on the sidewalks, in our neighbor's house, and we will definitely be victorious in November. Thank you, and God bless you.
Please welcome congressional candidate Rick Weiland of South Dakota.
Thank you. And hello to my great state of South Dakota. For the last 2 years, this Congress and its extreme leadership has led an unprecedented assault on average working families, all for the benefit of the powerful and privileged few. While families all across South Dakota and all across America worry about how to care for their aging parents and grandparents, Newt Gingrich is already planning again to destroy Medicare. While parents wonder about their children's education, Republican leader Dick Armey talks casually about massive cuts in school aid. While ordinary Americans worry about the quality of the air we breathe and the water we drink, corporate polluters continue to rewrite environmental laws. And while working families struggle to keep their heads above water, Bob Dole proposes cynically a plan that tries to buy their votes with pennies while the wealthiest reap millions. It's time for a new patriotism, a renewed loyalty to average working families who make America strong. American families don't need lectures on their values. They need a fair chance to make a decent living, to help strengthen those values and pass them on to their children. They need help in the form of real tax cuts to targeted working families instead of just favoring the wealthy. New tax cuts for working families with children will help ease their daily pain and struggle. New tax cuts for college tuition deduction and vocational training will increase opportunity in this country. And new tax deductions for first-time home buyers will expand the ability of those just starting out to buy their share of the American dream. I'm running to represent South Dakota's families, to put working families first. And I am proud to be here tonight as a part of the party that best represents those values in those average working families. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome congressional candidate, Cook County Commissioner Danny Davis of Illinois.
Fellow Democrats, fellow Americans, I add my voice to that of all those who have already welcomed you to the great city of Chicago. But more importantly, I welcome you to the purposes for which we have come. I welcome you to help re-elect Bill Clinton as president and Al Gore as vice president of the United States. I welcome the opportunity to see the Democratic Party in action, the party of Thomas Jefferson, of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, of John Kennedy, of Fannie Lou Hamer and Cesar Chavez. We are the party of diversity, the party of inclusivity, the party that believes in organized labor, the party of affirmative action, the party of daycare centers, community health centers, clean air, pure water, and occupational safety. We are the party which believes in our teachers, and unlike the other candidate for president, we don't believe that they are the problem. We are the party which believes in decent pay, and that's why President Clinton just signed the bill to increase the minimum wage, and that's why I support a livable wage. Chicago is known as the city of the big shoulders. I am proud of Chicago, and I am proud of the Democratic Party because its shoulders are big enough for the old, the young, the blacks, the whites, Hispanics, immigrants, the physically challenged, and those who have lost hope. We are the party that believes in choice for women. And for the American people, we are the party of choice. And so, my fellow delegates, I welcome you to help take back the House so that Dick Gephardt can take his rightful place as Speaker. Clem Belanoff of Illinois will help to make that happen. I welcome you to help take the Senate by electing people like Dick Durbin. When we leave the United Center, we must leave united, focused, and determined. We must go back and register every voter that we can find. We must touch the untouchables and reach the unreachables. We must bring to them the message of Bill Clinton, that from Hope, Arkansas, springs a message of hope for America. That hope is manifested in each and every one of us and shall be reaffirmed when we re-elect Bill Clinton, President of these United States of America. I thank you so very much.
Please welcome congressional candidate and former state senator from Indiana, Julia Carson.
Thank you so very much. I am Julia Carson. When our Congressman Andy Jacobs announced his retirement, I chose to run for Indiana's 10th district in Indianapolis. Andy Jacobs has made us all proud. I have been elected to public office already 8 times. I am a mother, a grandmother. I have been in business. I was a state senator and am now an elected office holder, the Center Township trustee in Indianapolis. A few weeks ago, when I listened to those Republicans in San Diego, I heard a lot of mudslinging. Well, I think it's time that we stop mudslinging, stop the attacking, stop the division. It is time for us to stand up for what we are for. So I will tell you what I have already stood for, what I stand for, and what I believe. I am for families. I am for children. We need to bring people together to work for our families. In San Diego, they made fun of the old African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. Now, I'd be careful before you start messing with something that's been around that long. It survived for a reason because it is true. I am a product myself of a village that included people who cared for me. My mom was a domestic worker, having to be away from home most of the time. I had teachers and neighbors who were supported, very supportive of me. That's why when I inherited over a $17 million debt as Center Township trustee, I implemented a workfare program that moved able-bodied people off of welfare and put them to work. That debt is gone and thousands of people are now working. Because in Indianapolis, our village.
Please welcome Mayor Ed Rendell of Philadelphia.
5 years ago, I became Philadelphia's 121st mayor. Our city was going through the worst financial crisis in its long and storied history. We faced a $230 million deficit projected to reach nearly $1.5 billion. Basic taxes had been raised 19 times in the previous 11 years, and city services had reached an all-time low. I knew that we couldn't tax our way out of our problems. We couldn't balance our budget through layoffs and abandoning basic services. We had to change the way we did business. We had to reinvent ourselves. And we did. The results? The largest surplus in our city's history. A budget cut by $750 million. Better services for Philadelphians. The New York Times called it one of the most stunning municipal turnarounds in history. We did it with the help of dedicated municipal workers. We saved every nickel we could. We became more productive in literally every single thing we did. Now, people ask me, why can't the federal government do the same thing? I said they could if they stopped talking and started doing. But nobody believed it would ever happen. And then along came Bill and Al. And over the last 3.5 years, they produced the most remarkable federal turnaround in decades. You know, Republicans talked about making government smaller, but they let it grow. Bill Clinton and Al Gore are cutting it down to size. Republicans talked about cutting the deficit, but Democrats are doing it. For years, Republicans talked about shifting power to states and communities, but Democrats are doing it. Republicans talked about making government more businesslike and efficient, but Democrats are doing it. Today, the federal government is the smallest it's been since John F. Kennedy was president. The budget deficit has been cut by 60%, and it's working better, all because Bill Clinton and Al Gore aren't just talking about fixing government, they're doing it. This administration is tossing out red tape and focusing on results. They're letting states and communities design programs that meet their own needs. This started in Oregon, where they set goals. Goals like a 45% reduction in teen pregnancy, and the federal government pitched in to help achieve those goals. Now, they're spreading this approach all across the country. This president created 105 empowerment zones and enterprise communities and gave those communities the freedom to design economic development strategies for their own neighborhoods. This reinvention has worked beyond anybody's expectations. Is the federal government as small as it should be? As efficient as it should be? Not yet. But thanks to Bill Clinton and Al Gore, Americans are finally getting a government that works better and costs less. Americans don't deserve a big government or a small government. They deserve the best government, and that's exactly what we intend to do.
Please welcome Illinois Congressman from the 20th District, the next Senator from Illinois, Dick Durbin.
November the 13th. On November 13th, 1959, I lost my father to lung cancer. My dad smoked 2 packs of Camels every day and died at the age of 53. He never lived to see me graduate from high school or college, get married, present him with a grandchild, or take the oath of office as a congressman. My father never lived long enough to enjoy many of those special moments in life, and my children never knew their grandfather. Mine is not a unique story. Each day in America, more than 1,000 lives are lost to tobacco-related disease. And every day in America, 3,000 kids start smoking for the first time. Kids who grow into nicotine-addicted adults, many of whose lives will be crippled and cut short by this deadly habit. 9 years ago, I led the fight in Congress to ban smoking on airplanes. We won that battle, and we continued to fight. We continue to fight to protect innocent people from secondhand smoke and to break the stranglehold the tobacco giants have on Washington. A few years ago, 7 tobacco executives stood solemnly before a House committee and swore that tobacco was not addictive. The American people know better. They know it is time for sensible regulation of tobacco to protect our kids. But with the new Republican leadership in Congress the past 2 years, any effort to sensibly regulate tobacco was stopped dead in its tracks. Thank goodness, some political leaders have not been intimidated by this tobacco lobby. I have been honored to stand with a courageous political maverick, that Okie from Muskogee, Mike Sinar of Oklahoma, to take on the Tobacco Boys. And I was proud to stand with President Clinton at the White House last Friday when he announced a nationwide effort to stop tobacco companies from exploiting and addicting our children. Is this important to parents and families? Ask yourself a simple question. When was the last time you ever heard a father or mother say how proud they were to learn that their teenager had started smoking? I know there is a political price to pay for challenging the tobacco giants. My Senate opponent has received more tobacco contributions than any new Senate candidate in America. But make no mistake, I am proud to be the #1 political target of the tobacco lobby. And I am proud that President Clinton is the first president in our history with the courage to join me in fighting to protect our kids from the dangers of smoking. I will be prouder still when the day comes, and it will, when this party is tobacco-free and the health of our children is more important than any special interest group. Thank you.
Please welcome to the podium from the state of Texas, the Commissioner of the General Land Office, Garry Mauro.
You know, I'm a very lucky man. I have a wonderful family. I get to live in Texas. I have a great job. I'm the Texas Land Commissioner. I have the responsibility of acting as the steward of some 22 million acres of public lands for all Texans, for all time. The land and everything that nurtures it has always been precious to Texans. It defines who we are, and in a large part, how we make our living. Now, I never believed Texans would accept the degradation of our air, water, and land as a trade-off for a strong economy. And I was right. Back home, we passed a historic international law banning ocean dumping in the Gulf of Mexico. We created Don't Mess with Texas and the Adopt a Beach programs, the most successful anti-littering campaigns in the nation. We passed a law to encourage the use of alternative fuels, like natural gas, which saves serious money and it saves the air as well. At the same time, Texas is recording one of the most sustained economic growth and expansion rates in our history. A booming economy and an aggressive program to produce cleaner air and water. A booming economy and more recycling than ever before in our history. A booming economy and less trash on our beaches, highways, and the Gulf of Mexico. A booming economy and a better environment. At the same time and in the same place, they coexist, they must coexist, and that is the point. Never again must there be a trade-off between a strong economy and a better environment for future generations. Prosperity and environmental protection is the vision of President Bill Clinton's and Vice President Al Gore for the 21st century. These visionary leaders of the 21st century will not allow the economy and the environment to be enemies. If we let Bob Dole and Newt Gingrich control both the White House and the Congress, we will witness the largest assault against future generations in modern history. That's what the contract with America was all about, an assault against future generations. They are determined to eliminate environmental protection that will not only put at risk the health of the economy, but the health of our citizens as well. Old ideas that pit the economy against the environment are the one thing we will not recycle into the 21st century. President Clinton and Vice President Gore know that the world's oceans are just as connected as the world's economies, that our ecosystems are every bit as entwined as our stock markets. The President and the Vice President get it. Bob Dole and Newt Gingrich, they don't have a clue. That's why the hope of the 21st century, the hope of a strong economy and a clean environment, must remain in the hands of the President from Hope, President Bill Clinton.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, from California's 3rd District, the chairman of the House Democratic Caucus, Congressman Vic Fazio.
I'm Vic Fazio, Congressman from West Sacramento, California, chairman of the House Democratic Caucus, and a proud representative of the people of the 3rd Congressional District of California. 2 weeks ago, the General Accounting Office confirmed something we already knew. The cost of higher education is going up. But maybe we didn't realize just how fast it's been rising. College tuition has increased over the last 14 years, nearly 3 times as fast as household income, and more than 3 times the rate of consumer prices. Our family ran into this rough reality just a few years ago. My 4 kids face the same dilemma as many young people have. What career to pursue, what college to attend, and which could we afford, and how much would we owe? And how would that affect their future? Education is the cornerstone of our country's future. Higher education in particular will determine how well America keeps pace with that future. Yet we don't hear much about education from the Republicans. The other side talks about an across-the-board tax cut. But we all know who would benefit: those who are well off and who need it the least. So Democrats have a better idea. We believe tax relief should be focused on working families to create educational and economic opportunities. Our Families First proposal would provide a $1,500 tax credit for 2 years of college. That would make 2 years of community college free to deserving students. And in return, the student would have to maintain a B average and stay drug-free. For families with children bound for 4-year colleges or universities, another component of this educational plan may well help. The Democratic tax relief plan includes a $10,000 tax deduction for education and job training. It could allow a student to consider a more competitive and perhaps more expensive college than they ever thought possible, or perhaps to choose a career that requires graduate training, or to simply begin their careers free of a crushing debt. So what better encouragement could we give to our young people to show them that there is a bright future, to say in clear terms, your future is our highest priority. The Democratic education plan is targeted to help working families. It's fully paid for with other specific tax offsets. It stands in stark contrast to Republican budget proposals that would have decimated the existing student loan program. The Democrats' Families First education and tax relief plan makes sense for our young people. It makes sense for America's families. In fact, it makes sense for all America. Thank you very much.
Please welcome the Honorable Willie Brown, Mayor of the City of San Francisco. Willie Brown.
I only got 3 minutes. Hey, let's just knock it off. Thank you. My fellow Democrats, long ago you welcomed me into this party because of my beliefs, not in spite of my beliefs. This party supports civil rights, freedom of choice, and affirmative action as assets, not as liabilities. Black, white, old, young, yellow, red, blue, brown, gay, straight, lesbian, immigrant, Native American, naturalized citizens, one and all. This is the party of inclusion, not illusion. I stand before you as the mayor, one of many who will come before you tonight, who's attempting to give stewardship to one of America's great cities. It is not an easy job. Urban America has tremendous problems. They were exacerbated during every single solitary Republican administration during the last 2.5 decades. You remember very clearly when Republicans took the position, as they still do, that affirmative neglect is the way you treat cities. Gerald Ford said in 1975, when New York was about to go bankrupt, drop dead. Ronald Reagan set about in his policies to kill off the American cities. The infrastructure rotted, crime rose, it became impossible to increase the ranks of law enforcement, and clearly, crack cocaine became a real threat to our citizens of our cities as the homeless ranks increased, and so did poverty. Not until Democrats began to assert themselves did any change begin to take place. Republicans are amazing. When the riots occurred in Los Angeles, and they were the worst riots of this century, George Bush says, I'm appalled. What did he do? He went and found Jack Kemp to say some soothing words to the housing project residents and to all the other people threatened. Under no circumstances did that represent any action by that administration. Today, Bill Clinton understands the needs of cities. He has demonstrated it by his minimum wage, reduced unemployment, lower interest rates, increased home ownership, real serious commitment to health, HIV, and all of the other problems that affect American cities. I say to you, as my fellow Americans, that agenda is unfinished. Bill Clinton and Al Gore needs 4 more years. 4 more years. That agenda must be finished. 4 more years.
Delegates and guests from the state of Florida, Governor Lawton Chiles.
As Democrats, we believe in opportunity and responsibility and community. And our first priority as community is to protect the health and safety of our children. In America today, a deadly plague is threatening our young people. That plague is tobacco addiction. Every day in America, 3,000 of our children get their first taste of tobacco. Tragically, a third of them will die later from smoking. Now, the tobacco giants say that they're not targeting our kids. We don't believe that. We see their attractive ads, the glamorous female models, the cartoon characters like Joe Camel. These ads send our kids a message that smoking is cool. I know, and you know, the tobacco barons are targeting our children. They refer to them as replacement smokers, to replace the 400,000 smokers that tobacco kills every year. Remember, these are the same people who say that milk and cookies are as harmful as tobacco. Now they're targeting women. There's an ad that says Virginia Slims. It's a woman's thing. Let's be clear, it's not a woman's thing, it's a death thing. Their ads have been working. Joe Camel is recognized by as many 6-year-olds as Mickey Mouse. We must put a stop to this. President Clinton understands that we must protect our kids from tobacco's poisonous grip. This president has stood up for what is right. The president is taking smart action to keep our kids from lighting up. He's sending a strong message that our children's health isn't for sale. I say to President Clinton, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your efforts to protect our kids. We know the real dangers of smoking. Too often, when a smoker gets sick, taxpayers pay the bill. In my state, $420 million a year goes up in smoke. We're going to change that. Tobacco justice is coming. Brave states are joining this fight. Massachusetts, Mississippi, Minnesota, West Virginia, Louisiana, Maryland, Washington, Arizona, Oklahoma, Texas, Connecticut, and Florida. We will make tobacco pay. This fight is a fight for America's future. It's about protecting our kids. It's about helping them to embrace all the possibilities that the great American experience has to offer. Let's work together. Stand up for our children. Make tobacco pay. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Congressman for the 2nd District of Louisiana, Congressman William Jefferson.
represents the state of Louisiana, state that in 1992 Bill Clinton won big, one of two southern states. We're going to win big for Bill Clinton in 1996 as well. President John Kennedy summoned our nation to service more than 3 decades ago. He inspired us to believe that public service was a good thing and that all of us should give something back. I was in high school then, and my generation was moved to seek opportunities, even careers, in public service and in community service. Now, President Clinton and the Democratic Party are reviving that call and urging Americans of all ages to get involved in national service, to live up to their obligations to each other. National service embodies one of our most profoundly American values, mutual obligation. It's wrong for Americans to expect something for nothing from our country or from our government. It's also impractical to expect, because Democrats believe that the era of big government is over. Indeed, our government is as small as it's been in 3 decades. But Republicans would trample on that crucial notion of mutual obligation. They encourage young people to simply look after themselves and ignore those who may be left behind. Bill Clinton and the Democratic Party say, there is a better way. We are in this together. Through national service, we can build our sense of community, our sense of shared values, and our stronger families. It is a dream worthy of our great party. America was created by President Clinton and Democrats in Congress to make that dream a reality. It recruits young people to serve in the ways that matter most, creating neighborhood watch groups to fight crime, cleaning parks in our cities, serving as teacher aides, waiting and visiting on the homebound elderly, building homes for the homeless, and perhaps most important, including unpaid volunteers in all aspects of life to help their communities. And while these young people are lifting up their communities, they're earning money to pay for college, a kind of domestic GI Bill for the 90s. Like the GI Bill itself, this program benefits both the participants and our country at large. At its heart, AmeriCorps is about the American family, about our character, about our community. AmeriCorps is a place where all Americans, young and old, of every race, from every background and every community, can work together as one people with one national purpose. To me, it promises the revival of one of the proudest traditions of our party and our country, reaching beyond the things that divide us to rediscover our shared goals and our shared values. AmeriCorps is a crucial part of this president's record and of this Democratic Party's record. It is a record we can run on in November, and it's a record we will win on this November. Thank you, and God bless you, and remember, New Orleans 2000.
Please welcome the representative of New York's 12th District, Congresswoman Nydia Velazquez.
Hello, Chicago. I offer warm greetings to the convention delegates to my hometown of New York y un abrazo muy fuerte a mi comunidad latina. I stand before you today as an extremely proud but humble woman, proud to address this esteemed convention representing my Democratic Party y mi hermoso pueblo, but humble by the constant reminder of my simple roots, the daughter of a sugarcane cutter and modest housewife from Yabucoa, Puerto Rico, who raised 9 children to believe in the magic carpet of education, which could take us anywhere. The magic carpet of education, which has brought me to the United States Congress as the first Puerto Rican woman to serve in that institution. The magic carpet of education, which has brought me before you today to speak on behalf of our cities. We all know the dire condition of our urban centers. Every day, we suffer the bitter frustration of seeing empty lots and abandoned buildings litter our neighborhoods. Every day, we agonize over the displaced or downsized men and women whose jobs has packed up and moved out, leaving them behind like forgotten hangers in a closet. How could this great economic power, this great nation, allow this? One major reason was a federal government that spent 12 years drinking from the cups of greed and self-indulgence called supply-side economics. Supply-side economics, which says give gigantic tax breaks to corporations and the super rich, and they will promote economic opportunity. Let me remind you that supply-side economics quadrupled our national debt. Let me remind you that supply-side economics planted the seeds of disinterest and neglect in the soil of urban America by dismantling precious urban programs. And let me remind you that this is what Bob Dole offers as his campaign panacea. But as Democrats, we do more than offer criticism. We instill hope and offer solutions. That is why this administration has doubled the federal budget for the homeless, has nurtured community development banks, and has created empowerment zones and enterprise communities. Yes, we did take a step back in enacting a punitive welfare law, a law which can and must be fixed. But to fix it, we can and we must retain the White House and recapture the Congress. This November, we can and we will turn Newt into a mole and forever retire Bob Dole. Muchas gracias. Que Dios los bendiga.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from the 7th District of Massachusetts, Congressman Ed Markey.
Good evening, fellow Democrats. Today we are faced with a fundamental choice. Are we going to give parents high-quality, educational television programming they want their kids to watch, and the tools to keep their television off of the violence and the sex and the language they don't want their kids to watch? Bill Clinton says yes. Bob Dole says no. It was Bill Clinton who saved the children's public broadcasting system when the Republicans tried to kill it. It was Bill Clinton who fought and won the requirement that beginning next year, every American television broadcaster must provide 3 hours of children's educational TV every week of the year. And it was Bill Clinton who fought and won the V-chip. Bill Clinton's leadership on the V-chip has now moved the American television industry to develop for the first time a system of TV ratings to inform parents of programs that might harm their kids. Finally, parents will have both the information and the technology to block all of the shows rated for violence or sex or language. For the first time, they can establish their own private safety zone in the family living room. Bill Clinton fought for the V-chip because he understood that today's parents need help. Today, Both parents are at work. We have 8 million latchkey children in this country. We have 18 million single parents. By the time the average American child reaches the age of 6, they have spent more time watching the family television set than they will have spent talking to their dad during their entire lifetime. And even the most caring and attentive parents feel overwhelmed by the sheer volume of adult material that floods the living room through the television. The TV screen can be downright terrifying. It is appalling that a child sees, on average, 8,000 televised murders and 100,000 televised incidents of violence before they leave elementary school. We have indeed left the era of Leave It to Beaver and entered the era of Beavis and Butthead. But did the Republican Party support giving the V-chip to parents so that they can protect their children? No. Did Newt Gingrich support giving parents the V-chip to protect their children? No. Did Bob Dole support giving parents the V-chip to protect their children? No. Ladies and gentlemen, we simply cannot afford to turn the presidency over to people who do not understand the pressures that technology places upon modern parents. And we cannot afford to turn the presidency over to people who do not understand how technology can help parents to raise healthy, productive kids in the years ahead. Bill Clinton and Al Gore understand these issues. Bob Dole does not. Bill Clinton and Al Gore have a strategy. Bob Dole does not. Bill Clinton and Al Gore are the future. Bob Dole is not. Say yes to the 21st century. Say yes to Bill Clinton and Al Gore. Thank you all very much.
Delegates and guests, please welcome the International President of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Gerald McEntee.
Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And welcome to the state of AFSCME. The other week, I was watching a little bit of that TV show from San Diego. And something occurred to me. For all their talk of family values, not one San Diego Republican had a word to say about keeping our families healthy and strong. We Democrats understand that in America, we measure great leaders not by their willingness to throw up their hands and tell everyone to fend for themselves, but by their commitment to roll up their sleeves and say, here is what we must do together. That's the kind of leadership Bill Clinton and Al Gore are providing America. And that's why we're going to win the presidency again on November 5th. We're going to win because when it was time to fight for affordable, high-quality health care, Bill Clinton and the Democrats stepped up to the plate while the Republicans hid in the dugout. If Newt Gingrich and Bob Dole had gotten their way, Medicaid's guarantee of health care of last resort for children and families would have been history in America. The GOP tried to dismantle Medicare, a program that has served generations of senior citizens, to give another tax break to the very people who don't need it and probably wouldn't want it at that price. But while Newt Gingrich says Medicare should be left to wither on the vine, and Bob Dole brags about voting against it to begin with, it's Bill Clinton and the Democrats who understand that Medicare and Medicaid aren't big government at its worst, but America at its best. Let's face it, it was the Republicans who battled for over a decade to keep the Family and Medical Leave Act from becoming law in America. And at a time when nearly 500,000 Americans die on the job each year, Republicans are working overtime if you will, to exempt workplaces from just routine safety inspections.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chief of the Cherokee Nation, Joe Byrd.
Good evening. On behalf of the Cherokee Nation, it is with great honor that I speak to you on behalf of American Indians, Alaskan Natives, and Native Hawaiians across the United States. I commend President Clinton for reaching out to our people. I also like to recognize the delegation that is here from my home state, Oklahoma. There has been a lot of talk during this convention about safety, family, and our future. This makes me reflect back on one of the most horrendous acts of terrorism in our country, the Oklahoma City bombing, an act that not only broke the heart of Oklahoma, but the United States as well. President Clinton and Vice President Gore were there to help our communities and families with the healing process. We in the state of Oklahoma, thank you. Native people have not had an opportunity to have our voice heard in national politics. We welcome this opportunity. We must defend issues that are important to all of us, not only as citizens of tribal governments, but as Americans. Working with the Republican Congress has not been easy. The Dole-Gingrich Congress has slashed funds for Indian education, economic development, health care, and other social programs. The Clinton-Gore administration has stepped forward and taken action in opposition to each of these devastating measures. I ask each of you one question. What is your vision of America? The Indian vision is the same vision all Americans share. Create opportunity to prosper. As a people, we can no longer afford to be a house divided. President Clinton has challenged all citizens to build a partnership and become a nation united. We accept this challenge. We believe opportunity favors a prepared nation. A prepared nation provides their people with the tools they need to enhance their quality of life. A prepared nation shares this responsibility. A prepared nation assists families, schools, and neighborhoods to build stronger communities. This is a vision Indian country shares with President Clinton and Vice President Gore. This vision is the American dream. I, Joe Byrd, of the Intertribal Council of the 5 Civilized Tribes, the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, Creek, and Seminole, representing more than 300,000 tribal citizens, fully endorsed the Clinton-Gore ticket for re-election and pledged to get out the native vote of '96. In 1996, we cannot afford to stand along the sidelines. I challenge each of you to ensure that your people register and vote for the team that will lead us into the 21st century. Together, we can build a prepared nation. Thank you, and Wado.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Cynthia Hammer-Portugal.
My fellow Democrats, I am a college student from the great state of California. And like many other college students, I support President Bill Clinton and all his re-election means for opportunity and education. Next year, I'll also be the first member of my family to receive my college degree. I'm the first in my family to come this close to living the dream of becoming a teacher. Not a day goes by that I don't think of how blessed I am. I've been able to attend college because of many things: the encouragement of teachers and friends, the support of my family, and my own desire to get an education. But with all this, I still would not be a college senior today, except for one crucial thing: federal student aid programs. They help pay my college expenses that get larger and more out of reach every year. And when 2 years ago, the Dole-Gingrich Republican Congress tried to destroy these programs, I got involved. I could not stand idly by while Republican proposals would have forced over 1,000 colleges and universities, including mine, out of the direct lending program. I could not stand idly by and let Republicans deny loans in this program to nearly 2 million deserving students. And I could not stand idly by and let Republicans deny Pell Grant scholarships to nearly 500,000 college students from low-income families. I realized that President Clinton and the Democratic Party were the only hope to save these vital programs and ensure for millions of young men and women like me the opportunity to learn, to get ahead, and to give back to society. It was President Clinton and Democrats in Congress who last year turned back the Republican assault on educational opportunity and saved student aid. And in the next 4 years, we can do even more. We can and will expand work-study programs, create new honor scholarships for top high school graduates, and provide tax cuts for college expenses. We can and will make the 13th and 14th years of education just as universal as the first 12. And in doing that, we will create a rich bounty of new skills and talents that will pay dividends for decades to come. There should never be a price tag on college education so high that most Americans can't afford one. There should never be a price tag on the American dream, and there won't be under President Bill Clinton. I stand before you ready to work my heart out to re-elect Bill Clinton and to take back the U.S. House and Senate for the American people. And I hope you stand with me. Thank you very much.
Please welcome the next governor of New Hampshire, State Senator Jeanne Shaheen.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Jeanne Shaheen from New Hampshire. I'm a wife, a mother, a former school teacher and small businesswoman, a state senator now seeking to become governor, the highest office in our great Granite State. I'm proud to speak to you this evening on behalf of my home state, a state with special qualities that Bill Clinton and the Democratic Party have recognized by guaranteeing that New Hampshire will remain the nation's first primary state. Like America, New Hampshire is a place of great promise. We treasure our traditions, but we look forward to the future. Today, that future too often has parents worried for their children, anxious about their jobs, and struggling to pay their bills. That's why I want to become governor, because the people of New Hampshire need a governor who will fight for the things that matter to them for a change. In New Hampshire, we pay the highest electric rates in the nation. In the state Senate, I took on Public Service Company of New Hampshire to break its monopoly, to increase competition, and to lower electric rates. And we need a governor who will stand up for New Hampshire families and for New Hampshire businesses to get rid of that electricity tax. I will be that governor. I'm proud to have helped expand kindergarten because I want every child in our state to have this opportunity. We need a governor who will keep working to bring kindergarten to every child, to strengthen our schools and to raise standards and to improve performance. And I will be that governor. I'm proud to have helped pass important health care protections for New Hampshire families. Now, if you lose your job, you can keep your health insurance, and you can't be denied coverage because you're sick or old. Bill Clinton signed a similar law only days ago. We need a governor who will offer that same kind of leadership, working for affordable, secure health care, and I will be that governor. And let me be clear, I renew my pledge to veto any sales or income tax, because we don't need new taxes in New Hampshire. We need lower electric rates, and we need better schools and affordable health care, safe streets and a clean environment, and a secure retirement. This campaign is not about partisan politics. It's about recognizing what's important to people. It's about having a governor who will fight for what matters to New Hampshire families. I will be that governor, and we can preserve what is great about New Hampshire, and together we can secure a bright future for the 21st century. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Please welcome from the state of Maryland, the President and Chief Executive Officer of the NAACP, the Honorable Kweisi Mfume.
Thank you. I attended the last convention of this party as a member of Congress and as a proud Democrat. I come tonight to this convention as a private citizen and as an American who wants both of our political parties to address the challenges we face together as communities. We are living at a time when our sense of community can no longer be taken for granted. Information technology has made it possible to communicate across oceans and across continents, across every conceivable boundary of nature and culture, and to do that instantly. But our technology has also made it possible to live and to work in complete isolation from our own neighbors and our own fellow citizens. The common experiences that have always made us recognize each other as members of a community and as Americans are becoming less common each year. Scab labor, unbridled poverty, second-class citizenship, and violent crime eat away at that sense of community. Hate speech, hate groups, hate radio, and hate crimes are attempting to divide those communities as never before. If we lose our sense of community, we then lose much of what has made America distinctive among the nations of this world. As foreign visitors have observed from the beginning of this republic, America's greatest strength has been our identity as a people whose common destiny was much more powerful than our diverse backgrounds or our stations in life. And that is why Americans have always been able to communicate across lines of race, class, region, and religion. That is why we are a people inclined to the bright opportunities of the future rather than the bitter conflicts of the past. In an era of smaller visions, rampant apathy, and celebrated mediocrity, we so desperately need those who will stand up for that which is right and to speak out against that which is wrong. To mean it when we say that racism and sexism and anti-Semitism is wrong. To know in our hearts that immigrant bashing and gay bashing and union bashing wastes potential enemy and dilutes the potential resources that we have in this nation. There is nothing in our political life today that troubles me more than the ideological extremists who proclaim their patriotism while ignoring common responsibilities of citizenship. Theirs is a patriotism at war with their own particular attachments to race, class, and clan. They fail to see that the real values of caring, honesty, hard work, and fair play make this nation more than just a collection of racial groups or ethnic groups or an abstract series of lines on a map. And I can say this evening with great authority that if those Americans who enjoy the greatest blessings of life in this country, wealth, opportunity, freedom from violence, freedom from want, if they deny their obligations as members of a community, then they can hardly expect that those who suffer the most from the unmet challenges facing America to overcome then all of a sudden their immediate problems and then embrace a false commonwealth and a hollow citizenship. The very young, the very old, the poor and the disabled cannot be ignored. We must make room for them at the table because in the end, we will still be measured by how we treat the least of these and how we treat each other. What Moses brought down from Mount Sinai was not the 10 suggestions, but rather a blueprint for life. We can and may abandon our sense of national community and then become like other nations, bound together by history and necessity rather than mutual obligation. But if we want to live up to our rhetoric about the special mission of America, if we want this nation to remain a beacon of hope to the world and a source of strength to our own citizens, and we must all reaffirm our common bonds, beginning with a basic American premise. It says that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal. And so when the timid say they fear even to try anymore, we must reply that we still have a shining and powerful dream given by a shining and powerful God. When you hear that new version of an old song that speaks of gradualism, when you are told to wait for tomorrow and the next tomorrow, or the next election or the next generation, you must reply in the words of Martin Luther King Jr., spoken from an old Birmingham jail, when he said that now is the time. Now is the time, and today is the day. God save our communities, and God bless America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chicago's own Congressman Luis Gutierrez.
Greetings to my delegation from my home state of Illinois and the people of the city of Chicago. My friends, 4 years ago, the American people and the Latino community made an investment in Bill Clinton. The Latino community can be proud of that investment, and America should be proud of its Latino community. Look around this convention center. From New York to Texas, to California, to Puerto Rico, to Chicago, Latinos are working and fighting for a better America. And Latinos are ready to work to keep Bill Clinton and Al Gore fighting for all of us. Because we know that the Latino agenda is the American agenda. We're not about welfare, we're about jobs. Para puertorriqueños, mexicanos, latinos todos, trabajo no mantengo es lo que demandamos. Igualdad de oportunidad es lo que se requiere. Bill Clinton must come to understand that. Bill Clinton is the president who helped Mexico in its time of need, who is stopping the anti-immigration bill in Congress, who has said no to English only, who is protecting the people of Puerto Rico by defending good jobs and real economic development. For Puerto Rico, jobs no mantengo. Unfortunately, the party of Newt Gingrich and Proposition 187 doesn't care about our people. And at that end of Pennsylvania Avenue, our community has been the target of some red-hot rhetoric and some cold-hearted legislation. But as we say in Spanish, no pasarán, they will not succeed. Because Pennsylvania Avenue is a two-way street. And at the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, Bill Clinton will stand for us and defend our interests. Our president has shown that he has seen the true faces of the Latino community. Faces streaked with sweat and stained with tears and filled with a hope for a better America. I see those faces here today. I see the faces of Latinos who are teaching our children and caring for our sick and protecting our homes. I see the face of a community that is an essential and vital member of our great American family. And we know that when Newt Gingrich said yes to an extremist, anti-Latino, anti-immigrant agenda, Bill Clinton stood up for us and said no, and we're going to say yes to him November 5th. Because Bill Clinton understands something that our greatest president taught us all, and that today's Republican Party has forgotten and abandoned. That if we are truly to have government of the people, by the people, for the people, then we must listen to all our people and care about all our people. Whether they are the richest or poorest, our youngest or oldest, our strongest or most vulnerable, and whether their family came to America on the Mayflower, or whether they are new immigrants who arrived last month, they all have a place in America. My friends, I know we all have a place in the Democratic Party's America. We all have a place in Bill Clinton's America. And we all will keep fighting every day to keep our president working and fighting for all of us. Gracias. Thank you. Y adelante con Clinton.
And now, please welcome from Chicago, Congresswoman Cardiss Collins.
Bob Dole stood before America in San Diego and told us he remembers a time when America was better. When was that, Mr. Dole? Was it when women could not choose what to do with their own lives and bodies? Was it when African Americans and other minorities had the horrible indignity of discrimination? Was it when people with disabilities were locked out of society? Was it when polluters could ravage our environment at will, or when women lacked a living wage? Or was it when senior citizens didn't have Medicare, Mr. Dole? Whenever that was, it was before President Bill Clinton took office. America is as good as it has ever been, and America with President Bill Clinton will keep getting better. My mother, God bless her, was a cleaning lady when I was a child, and later when I was growing up, she was a nurse's aide. I stand before you today as a representative in Congress for the 7th District of Illinois, in which this great convention is being held. Someday, my granddaughter, who is Candace, may well be the President of the United States. That's not Bob Dole's America, but it sure is Bill Clinton's America. President Clinton knows that making America better takes hard work. We used to say that James Brown was the hardest working man in show business. Well, Bill Clinton is the hardest working man in America. Bob Dole and Newt Gingrich think making America better means shutting the government down and going home early. Bill Clinton knows that making America better means staying late and making government work for all of America's people. Making America better takes more than talk. It takes focusing government on solving the problems that people encounter. Problems in health care, education, and yes, welfare. We can have faith that President Clinton knows that real welfare reform will take more than just talk. It will take the hard work of government and the private sector to make opportunity real. Bill Clinton knows that jobs, health care, and child care are the only real welfare reform and the only way to make an opportunity more than just a word. I want to welcome everybody to my congressional district here on Chicago's West Side, where the commitment of President Clinton through programs like empowerment zones are coming together to make all Americans better. I will be leaving Congress at the end of the year after 23 years there. With your help, I will leave knowing that America is in good hands with the dynamic duo of Al Gore and Bill Clinton. Thank you, and God bless you.
Please welcome our Vice Chair of the Convention, Representative Nancy Pelosi of California.
Now I'd like you to welcome some very, very special colleagues of mine from the House of Representatives, the Democratic women of the U.S. House of Representatives. First, please welcome the Honorable Nita Lowey, Congresswoman from the 18th District of New York. Nita Lowey.
Good evening, my friends
Good evening, New York. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. 200,000 American women are diagnosed with breast cancer every year. 50,000 will die. Breast cancer strikes 1 in 8 women at some point in their lives. 1 in 8. They are mothers, daughters, sisters, and wives. Every struggle is a family's to fight, and every loss is a family's to bear. I know because one of those women was my mother. And not a day goes by when I don't think of her and the years we missed together. Women's health was not a national priority when my mother died 15 years ago, and it was not a national priority when I came to Congress in 1988. Back then, just 13% of the budget at the National Institutes of Health was dedicated to women. Research routinely excluded women, and there were only 3 gynecologists on the entire staff of the National Institutes of Health. And just imagine this, even the lab rats were all male. Thankfully, all of this has changed. When the American people elected Bill Clinton and Al Gore, they also sent to the Congress the largest number of women in history. And working together as a team, we've put the real concerns of women and families first. Under President Clinton's strong leadership, we are correcting decades of neglect. Activists who labored for years to make politicians listen now have a real partner in the Oval Office. Finally, we have a president who is making decisions with women instead of for women. This administration has doubled funding for breast cancer research in just 4 years. We have expanded life-saving screening tests for breast and cervical cancer. President Clinton signed legislation ensuring the safety and effectiveness of mammography. And thanks to Bill Clinton, research done at the National Institutes of Health must, by law, include women. Now, with the formation of the Breast Cancer Action Plan, this president has committed our nation's scientific resources for the first time to a comprehensive fight against breast cancer. Just think what this progress means for American women. The discovery of a breast cancer gene, new treatments and screening methods, easier access to mammography, real hope that this plague will finally end. I often think of my mother and wonder how many women might still be alive today if this nation had invested more in women's health a generation ago. With Bill Clinton in the White House, I know that we are working to spare our children, our daughters, from asking that agonizing question a generation from now. We do this for the brave survivors, for all the millions of women who sign petitions for more research and run in races for the cure. We do this for the family that gathers by the phone, waiting for a doctor's call. We do this for every woman who stares into the mirror and wonders not if, but when. Thanks to Bill Clinton and Al Gore, American women look upon a brighter, healthier future than ever before. Let others build bridges to the past. Our eyes are forward, and we will not rest until our work is done. Thank you.
Delegates and guests, please welcome the Honorable Eleanor Holmes Norton, delegates to Congress from the District of Columbia.
Thank you very much. Thank you. My good friends and fellow Democrats, if there is one issue that is driving women into the Democratic Party, it is their insistence on improving their economic condition for themselves and for their families. The expression working woman is as redundant as the expression working man. Millions of women work overtime at home for love, but millions of women today must do overtime at work for money. Democrats reject Republican distinctions that classify and divide America's hardworking women. Our goal is to help women, whatever they decide, not to tell them what to decide. Today, when women go to the polls, they take all their roles with them. Mother, wife, student, worker, business owner. At the end of a second Clinton term, women will greet the new century as half the workforce. 2/3 of women under 55 are there now. Pink, blue, and white collars aside, women have become a huge red, white, and blue part of the American workforce. Women have lived two of the three great themes of this convention: responsibility and community. They want a president who will continue to help them live the third theme: opportunity. Women have seized the opportunity, and for most, the necessity to work. Now they want the opportunities that should come with work. The candidate who has offered women opportunity is the man who will accept our nomination tonight. Women know what party and what candidate are committed to assuring them opportunity. The 2/3 of minimum wage workers who are women know. The 75% of earned income tax credit recipients who are women know. The millions who have benefited from the Family and Medical Leave Act know. The women who are police officers and carpenters engineers and doctors because of affirmative action. No. Women know that opportunity will again be on hold unless they send Bill Clinton back to the White House. We have the power to send him back, and we shall exercise that power in November. Today, the great women's issues have become family issues. Childcare so that work does not deprive children, decent wages, and tax credit so that work pays, leave for family emergencies, laws that protect women from discrimination. Democrats know that we can't put families first by leaving women behind. Republicans have tried to define a woman's place. To define us is to confine us. We will make our own choices. A woman is a person who makes choices. A woman heals others. A woman builds bridges. A woman makes children and makes cars. A woman writes poetry and songs. A woman is a person who makes choices. In November, that choice will be President Bill Clinton. Thank you.
Please welcome to the podium from Denver, Colorado, Congresswoman Pat Schroeder.
Thank you, thank you. Friends, Coloradans, we love you, and delegates. I want you tonight to join with me in looking at this very closely. I doubt that many of us know what this is. A Chinese woman whose feet was bound as a child in order to control her wore this shoe. I can't look at this shoe without wincing and thinking of the tremendous, incredible physical suffering Chinese women endured. Thank goodness our culture never bound women's feet, but it did bind our minds and shut our eyes to family violence. One's home was one's castle, we were told, and you could pull up the drawbridge and no outside rules could come in. The home was the only place where brute force could reign unchecked in our society. Yes, our culture was rightfully outraged by the rising level of crime in society, but we refused to connect the dots and realize that if a child sees every dispute in the home end in violence, no conflict resolution course is ever going to modify that learned behavior, and it's going to spill into the streets. I was the proud author of the Violence Against Women Act, and I fought very, very hard to get it passed. But it took President Clinton's leadership to get that bill passed into law. President Clinton has been wonderfully candid about what it felt to grow up in a home where calm could erupt into stark terror in just a matter of seconds. He didn't romanticize or repress or rewrite his family history. Instead, he joined forces with us to crack our culture and the avoidance of this terrific problem. He helped provide real help for traumatized families. Families in need of help today because of President Clinton and the Democratic Congress can phone 1-800-799-SAFE and get help. Over 40,000 calls have already been received. The new law also helps judges and prosecutors and police to understand, recognize domestic violence and violent acts against women, and to teach them how to be more effective in dealing with that. After this act passed unanimously through the democratically controlled House, Newt Gingrich and Bob Dole brought their Republican gang to power. And one of their very first acts was to gut the funding for the Violence Against Women Act. I guess they thought we were asleep. But President Clinton joined us in calling the Republicans to task, and they sheepishly restored an awful lot of that funding. But they also publicly exposed their real desire to get rid of this law if they possibly can get away with it. We can't go back. We don't call Republicans retro without a cause. We need President Clinton and his new proposal this week that will take guns away from the hands of people who've been convicted of a domestic violence offense. That is the next step in our culture cracking on this terrific problem. Last year alone, an estimated 150,000 domestic violence incidents involved guns. Let's work to make the president's proposal the law. Thank you, Bill Clinton. Thank you for insisting this country remove its blinders and deal with the seeds of violence in some of America's homes. Let's work together to make domestic tranquility a 21st century reality. Thank you all. We've got to go home and work hard. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Please welcome to the podium from the 3rd District of Connecticut, Congressman Rosa DeLauro.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Connecticut. Good evening. I'm Rosa DeLauro, Congresswoman from Connecticut, and I am proud to be here to address this convention. Some may take these occasions for granted, but I don't. This is an honor. We gathered to renominate President Bill Clinton and Vice President Al Gore to serve the American people for 4 more years. We come before the people this week, not grudgingly, but with a sense of opportunity. We welcome the chance to talk about our values and what we will fight for. And we are confident of our purpose and hopeful that the American people will tell us to continue our mission, carry on the fight for working middle-class America. For the last 2 years, the American people have watched a great debate. The more they watched and listened to the Republican Congress, the more doubtful they grew about the extreme proposals that would endanger what hard-working Americans are trying to achieve for their families. I learned my values on Worcester Street in the heart of New Haven's Italian-American community. My family ran a bakery. My uncles had a plumbing business. My mother worked at a sewing machine in the sweatshops. And my father dropped out of school and went from job to job during the Depression. So I know something about the importance of hard work, personal responsibility, and family. That's my standard. And unfortunately, too often in politics, leaders forget where they come from. Many were hopeful that this new Congress would bring about change. And so I tried to apply a simple test to Speaker Gingrich's agenda. Would it make things harder or easier for working families? For me, there were 3 key tests: minimum wage, employee pensions, and Medicare. I understand that most Americans make more than the minimum wage, and thank God they do. And I understand a 90 cents an hour raise is not the world, but 2/3 of minimum wage workers are adults. A 90-cent increase translates into 7 months of groceries, a year of health care costs, 9 months of utility bills, or 4 months of housing. Frankly, I find it unthinkable that the Republican leaders of the Congress opposed the minimum wage. Newt Gingrich and Bob Dole did everything possible to kill it, but they failed. The Democrats and some Republicans of goodwill voted to raise it, and Bill Clinton signed it into law. That was the first test. The Congress passed a budget last year that allowed corporations to raid their employee pension funds. Maybe I missed something, but isn't this people's savings? Newt Gingrich and Bob Dole failed the second test. Then the historic struggle to stop the raid on Medicare. Newt Gingrich and Bob Dole cut Medicare by $270 billion for a $245 billion tax cut, mostly for the wealthy. That was an historic threat to retirement security. The Democrats worked their heart out to stop it. Bob Dole has now proposed a yet bigger unfunded tax cut that will mean even greater cuts to Medicare. Republican leaders failed on the minimum wage, they failed on employee pensions, and they failed on Medicare. They should not be given another chance. So we will leave this convention hall tonight to take our case to the American people. You will decide who is working to make things better for ordinary Americans. We welcome the test and welcome the results on November 5th. Thank you.
Delegates and guests, please welcome the Congressman from New York's 15th Congressional District. When the Democrats win the House of Representatives in November, he will be the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee. Please welcome Representative Charlie Rangel.
My, how beautiful you look. This is America. This is America. This is what we're talking about. This is gorgeous. This is beautiful. This is a beautiful country. This is a beautiful convention. And when we leave this beautiful city, we're going to have a beautiful victory comes this election. We came to Chicago unified, and we're going to leave Chicago stronger than ever before. But I want you to know that the ghost of Herbert Hoover and the Newt Gingrich gang, they're still here with us. They would do anything to try to tear apart the unity and the feelings that we have. Let me tell you, and it's probably happened to some of you, some people have come to me and they said, why, you differed with the president on the welfare bill. How could you be so outraged with that bill and still support the president. And I remind them that I left New York, I had an argument with my wife. And I'm not thinking about walking away from her. I love you, Alma. I'm gonna stick with her, and we're gonna work out our differences, and there is no problem that any of us have with Bill Clinton that a Democratic Congress and a re-elected Bill Clinton can't resolve. Some people have said, well, Charlie, you've been critical of the administration as it relates to their drug policy. And I say, you know, in the United States of America and in our Democratic Party, we can be critical of a president and still support him. We don't have to go in the closet like the Republicans. This problem, and the president knows it, is a plague on our nation. There's not one of you that hasn't felt the pain, or some family or some community, of the dangers of drug addiction. And we know that if America is going to be what President Clinton's going to take us to, as we expand our trade, increase our economy, reduce the deficit, that we can't afford to have 2 million people in jail when they should be in universities and making this country as productive as she can be. But listen to this. Who made the criticism? Senator Dole, who's been in the Senate ever since we discovered water, wakes up like Rip Van Winkle and says the nation has a drug problem. And his solution is to call out the National Guard and bring together a meeting of experts. Hey, Bob, get real. We've been there, we've done that. Stick with Bill Clinton, stick with Al Gore, and we can do it. President Clinton realizes that the problem that we face is not finding out how many people on welfare or how many people we can put in jail. It's how many hopes, how many dreams can we give to people, and how can our children and our children's children said when those people came and threatened the institutions that so many have fought for, where were we? And we will be able to say that we were there fighting for the struggle that so many before have made. The fights of the Roosevelts, the struggles of the Kennedys, the successes of the Johnsons, and the great success and progress that have been made by Bill and Hillary Clinton. I say to you, when November comes, we're going to have a victory that the whole world would say, the Democrats are on the move, America's on the move, and it's going to be a beautiful world. God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the 10th District of Michigan, the Democratic Whip of the House of Representatives, Congressman David Bonnier.
Hello, Michigan. Somewhere in America tonight, there was a father who got up at 5 o'clock this morning, who helped get the kids ready for school, who worked hard all day, and who missed soccer practice one more time because his family needs the overtime pay to make the bills. And he wonders if his kids will have a better life than the one that he knows. Tonight, we stand with that father. Somewhere in America tonight, there is a grandmother who helped build the planes that won the war, who worked hard all her life, worked hard and is living with dignity, but she worries about being a burden on the kids that she lives with. We stand with that grandmother. We stand with her children, and we stand with her grandchildren. Somewhere in America tonight, there is a student who is studying hard, who wants to make her parents proud, and who dreams of being a doctor or an engineer or a poet. But she wonders if she's going to have the chance to go to college. Tonight, we stand with that student and all her hopes and dreams. These are the people that this election is about. You know, Newt Gingrich loves to talk about renewing American civilization. But Bill Clinton understands something that Newt Gingrich never will. You can't renew American civilization by taking Big Byrd away from 5-year-olds, school lunches from 10-year-olds, summer jobs from 15-year-olds, and student loans from 20-year-olds. This is about simple, fundamental values. If you help a company make money, you deserve a raise, and America needs a raise. If you get sick, you deserve good health care. If you put a lifetime of loyal service, you deserve a secure pension. And when you retire, no man like Newt Gingrich should be able to take your Medicare away. This isn't just about economics. It's about values. Every minute a mother is forced to work late is another minute she spends away from her children, not helping them with their homework, not teaching them right from wrong. Every hour a father is forced to work overtime is another hour he spends away from Little League, away from dinner conversations, and away from his community. The strength of America's families is the work of the Democratic Party. We Democrats have some differences on some important matters of conscience, and we respect those differences. But the Democratic Party is firmly united in our belief that every child in America should have nutrition, child care, education, health care, and opportunity. You know, when the Olympics ended, I heard a story about a mom who was asked what she was going to do now. And she said she was going to return to her own personal Olympics. She said, first, there's synchronized swimming. That's when you try to give your 2-year-old a bath while your 4-year-old splashes water on you. And then there's the hurdles. That's when you try to make it through the supermarket without tripping over the stuff that your kids knock off the shelf. And then there's the balance beam. That's when you try to balance 2 jobs, 2 kids, 2 schedules, and still make it to Girl Scouts. And finally, there's the decathlon. Now that's the legendary endurance event when you get up at 5, you stumble into the shower, you wake the kids up, make them breakfast, meet the school bus, you run off to the daycare, you rush to the office, you work hard all day. You work hard all day, and then you run back to the daycare, you fight the traffic, and then you're trying to get home for dinner, help out with the homework, wrestle the kids to bed, and then you take a deep breath so you can get up tomorrow and do it all over again. Yet, what is the Republican answer? More trickle down. Well, Bob Dole and Newt Gingrich operate under that old Republican theory that the best way to feed the birds is to give more oats to the horse. In less than 2 hours, President Clinton will be standing before us. But he won't be standing alone. For standing with him tonight will be that mother, and that father, and that grandmother, and that student, and all their hopes and dreams for the future. In this city of big shoulders, we stand here tonight, a united Democratic Party, committed to the entire American family and looking for the future. So come with us. Come join that family. Let's give Bill Clinton and Al Gore 4 more years to build a better America. Thank you.
Please welcome from the 1st District of Rhode Island, Congressman Patrick Kennedy.
Thank you very much. It's an honor for me to be here tonight, but nothing has made me more proud than to serve the people of my state of Rhode Island and to serve with my colleague and my good friend and the next United States Senator from the state of Rhode Island, Congressman Jack Reed. I'd also like to say nothing will make me more proud than to go back to a Democratic House led by Speaker Dick Gephardt. Now I'd like to acknowledge my Rhode Island Speaker, John Harwood, who's heading up our Rhode Island delegation here from Rhode Island. Now, I'm here tonight to introduce to you my father, and to tell you about what he's all about. For the sake of comparison, the Republican Congress has made it easy. First, I'll tell you what he isn't. He is not about practicing the brand of divide and conquer politics that this 104th Republican Congress has made so commonplace. He is not about cynically dividing people, pitting one group against another for political gain. He, too, has come from an Irish-American family, but his politics couldn't be further from that of Patrick Buchanan and the Republican Party. I am proud that my father has stood up to the welfare bashing, stood up to the gay bashing, stood up to the immigrant bashing that the Republican Congress has consumed their time with in the last 104th Congress. My father has defended human rights, not attacked human rights. My father has sought to respond to our problems and to this nation's anxieties, not to exploit them. Instead of finding scapegoats to our problems, my father has sought solutions. When a 55-year-old breadwinner gets laid off from work, it's my father who's there to fight for the necessary retraining dollars so that he can get back on his feet and provide for his family. When the minimum wage is too low for a person to support their family, even with 2 and 3 jobs, my father is there. He's there to fight to raise the minimum wage. And if I have to think of anything growing up as his son that has meant more to him, it's health care. And when a child is sick, and when a child needs medical attention, it's my father who's there to fight for her and millions of other families just like hers who have no health insurance to protect them when they get sick. My father has taught me these values. This is why I'm a Democrat. This is why I am voting for Bill Clinton. And this is why I'm so proud to introduce my father, the senior senator from the state of Massachusetts, Edward M. Kennedy.
In the great passages of my public life, on the great issues of our national life, I have spoken before to other Democratic conventions, but what I feel in my heart tonight can hardly be expressed. It is a father's sense of pride and joy and honor. It seems like only yesterday that I was helping Patrick with his homework. Now, as a member of Congress, he's writing the legislation and fighting the fights, not only for his state of Rhode Island, but for working families who are the heart and strength and soul of the Democratic Party. John and Robert Kennedy summoned new generations to public service. How proud they would be, especially of so many of you gathered here who answered their call. How proud they would be of a president who was touched in his youth by their example and who has brought our party back to victory and moved our country forward, President Bill Clinton. And how proud they would be of the brilliant and brave First Lady who will march with President Clinton every step of the way from this convention city to another great victory this November, Hillary Rodham Clinton. When I think of the attacks on her from the likes of Newt Gingrich and Rush Limbaugh, I recall what was said of another great Democrat long ago. We love her for the enemies that she has made. In 1996, we are proud of who we are, proud of where we stand, and proud of who leads us. No one in this convention hall has to point to the exit signs to tell the prejudiced, the extremists, and the intolerant that they are not welcome here. We do not offer the illusion of inclusion while forcing a vice presidential nominee to betray his own conscience and endorse a law that would deny equal opportunity to women and minorities. Today, in everything but name, the Democratic Party is the party of Abraham Lincoln. And where, in truth, do our opponents stand? We heard the orators at their convention all trying to sound like moderates, but this time we say to the American people, Before you read their lips, you better read their platform. It is the radical wish list of the education cutting, environmental trashing, Medicare slashing, choice denying, tolerance repudiating, gay bashing, Social Security threatening, assault rifle coddling, government closing, tax loophole granting. There's more to come. Minimum wage opposing. Republican majority that dominated the delegations in San Diego. The image makers tried to pretend it was otherwise. They tried with all the tricks at their disposal to create a false platform that would hide the real one. But a false platform built on thin air cannot hold up a lumbering elephant laden down with the heavy weight of the Dole-Gingrich record. And a campaign that almost went up in smoke cannot be reclaimed by a convention of smoke and mirrors. I have served with Bob Dole in the Senate. I like and respect him as a person, but I take issue with his backward vision of America. They say there's a new Bob Dole, but let's not lose sight of the old Bob Dole. He wasn't exactly a merry old soul. The compliant partner in the so-called Gingrich Revolution. Newt Gingrich thought it up, but Bob Dole swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. When our opponents put their ticket together, they left out the last name. Their real ticket is the famous Republican trio of reaction, Dole, Kemp, and Gingrich. Our opponents oppose the ban on assault weapons and the waiting period for handguns. You cannot be tough on crime if you're soft on criminals getting guns. But that is exactly the position of Dole, Kemp, and Gingrich. Our opponents tried to cut funding and enforcement to clean up our environment. You cannot put the big polluters in charge of our air and water, but that is exactly the position of Dole, Kemp, and Gingrich. Our opponents have called for a constitutional amendment to outlaw a woman's right to choose, even in cases of rape and incest. You cannot close the gender gap while raising walls against the most basic of women's rights. But that is exactly the position of Dole, Kemp, and Gingrich. Our opponents tried to enact the largest education cuts in American history and to end direct student loans for college. You cannot improve schools by attacking teachers, but that is the unacceptable and unworthy tactic of Dole, Kemp, and Gingrich. I believe that Bob Dole's acceptance address was the first anti-teacher, anti-education speech ever delivered by a presidential nominee of either major party. I would rather have a convention graced by those who teach our children than a convention beholden to Ralph Reed and Pat Robertson and all the others who preach narrow doctrines that have far more to do with politics than with faith. In the end, all they offer is warmed-over supply-side economics that devastated our economy in the past. Bob Dole will not tell us how he would pay for his plan, but a secret plan to pay for a Dole tax cut is as dangerous as Richard Nixon's secret plan to end the war. You and I know what our opponents would do. I have watched Bob Dole on the floor of the Senate vote to cut Medicare, not once, not twice, but time and time again. I know his votes. I know Bob Dole, and Bob Dole is no friend of Medicare. Once, not so long ago, this was thought to be a lost election and a lost chance for progress and economic justice. But the lesson is, if we stand our ground, we can prevail. And over the obstruction of Bob Dole and the bitter resistance of the Gingrich Congress, we have just passed an increase in the minimum wage. They wanted tax giveaways to help those who make $200,000 a year or $2 million a year. We demanded at least $5.15 an hour for working men and women. We fought so hard for the minimum wage that it was said that we drove Bob Dole from the Senate. And we wish him a long, happy retirement. With the same kind of long, hard fight, we also won health insurance reform. Now the opponents who resisted and subverted it day after day are actually attempting to claim credit for it. Let them try. Who will ever believe that the Republicans were actually for health care reform? In the next 4 years, we will repair the social contract so that working families will share fairly in the profits created by their talent, time, and spirit, so that all the gains will not be funneled into solely the stratospheric salaries for CEOs. We will end the shameful subsidies that pay American companies to close down plants and lay off workers in this country and move jobs to cheap labor overseas. We will close the tax loophole for billionaire Benedict Arnolds who renounced their American citizenship to avoid taxes. On the vast fortunes that they have earned in the United States of America, let them go, but not before they pay the taxes that they owe. In the months ahead, if we hold our democratic standard high, we will win, and we will deserve to win. And in the years ahead, if we hold to our enduring principles, We will convert victory for our party into a renewed America for our people. Our day is different. We must match our answers to our times. But there is a powerful tie between values and vision, between past and future, between who we are and what we hope for our country. 33 years ago this summer, a young man from Boys Nation stood in the Rose Garden and shook the hand of a young president. That day, Bill Clinton took my brother's hand, and now he is the young president who has taken up the fallen standard, the belief that America can do better, and we will do better with President William Jefferson Clinton leading us into the next American century.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the United States, Al Gore.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. 4 years ago, you gave me your nomination to be vice president. Tonight, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the opportunity to serve our country and for the privilege of working beside a president who has done so much to lift the lives of America's families. Tradition holds that this speech be delivered tomorrow night. But President Clinton asked me to speak tonight. And you can probably guess the reason why. My reputation for excitement. This is some crowd. I've been watching you doing that Macarena on television. And if I could have your silence, I would like to demonstrate for you the Al Gore version of the Macarena. Would you like to see it again? Four years ago, America faced a set of problems that our leaders had lost the courage to confront. Our nation was not creating jobs. Our jobs were not increasing pay. Our people were running in place. Our nation was falling behind. 4 years later, we meet in this great city of Chicago, the place Carl Sandburg called the city of the big shoulders, with lifted head so proud to be alive and strong. 4 years later, Democrats are proud, our hopes are alive, and America is strong. Bill Clinton's leadership is paying off. How can you tell? By what the American people have achieved themselves. Just look at what all of us have created together these last 4 years. 10 million new jobs, a deficit cut in half. A smaller, leaner, reinvented government working better and costing less. Unemployment and inflation both down. Record exports, wages on the rise, an economy moving forward. Empowerment zones bringing neighborhoods back to life. Classrooms connected to the information superhighway. Communities given the right to know about environmental dangers. Toxic waste being cleaned up. Rivers and lakes reclaimed and thriving. An America not just better off, but better. And our strength at home has led to renewed respect abroad. Nuclear missiles no longer targeted at our cities. Democracy replacing tyranny in Haiti. Peace replacing war in Bosnia. Leadership toward reconciliation in Northern Ireland and the Middle East. While our nation has made great progress, we have much more to do. And we are here to declare that the man who can help us fashion this better future is President Bill Clinton. The president's opponent, Senator Bob Dole, is a good and decent man. We honor his service to America and his personal courage in fighting back from injuries sustained in battle. Though we disagree with his ideas, only the unknowing would deny him the respect he deserves. But make no mistake, there is a profound difference in outlook between the president and the man who seeks his office. In his speech from San Diego, Senator Dole offered himself as a bridge to the past. Tonight, Bill Clinton and I offer ourselves as a bridge to the future. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, humanity is divided between the past and the future, between memory and hope. It is easy to understand the nostalgic appeal of the party of memory and the men who lead it. But let there be no doubt, the future lies with the party of hope and the man from hope who leads it. We Americans write our own history, and the chapters of which we're proudest are the ones where we had the courage to change. Time and again, Americans have seen the need for change and have taken the initiative to bring that change to life, but always with a struggle, always with opponents. Senator Dole was there. We remember that he voted against the creation of Medicare, against the creation of Medicaid, against the Clean Air Act, against Head Start, against the Peace Corps in the 60s and AmeriCorps in the 90s. He even voted against the funds to send a man to the moon. If he's the most optimistic man in America, I'd hate to see the pessimists. That pessimistic view of America is very different from ours, and we saw it in the budget that Senator Dole and Speaker Gingrich tried to slip past the American people last fall. Their budget doubled Medicare premiums while slashing benefits, wiped out nursing home care for seniors, ended the guarantee of medical care to disabled children, rolled back protections for our air and water, increased the cost of college while making student loans harder to get, terminated anti-drug programs for our schools, and raised taxes on the hardest hit working families. They passed their reckless plan and then demanded that President Clinton sign it. They shut the government down twice because they thought Bill Clinton would buckle under the pressure, wither in the face of their attacks, cave in to their demands. But they did not know the true measure of this man. He never flinched or wavered. He never stooped to their level, and of course, he never attacked his opponent's wife. Let me tell you what Bill Clinton did do. President Clinton took Speaker Newt Gingrich and Senator Bob Dole into the Oval Office. I was there, I remember. And he said, President Clinton said, as long as I occupy this office, you will never enact this plan, because as long as I am president, I won't let you. That's why they want to replace Bill Clinton, but we won't let them. They want someone in that Oval Office who will rubber stamp their plan. That's why they want to replace Bill Clinton, but we won't let them. They want a president who will appoint the next 3 justices of the Supreme Court so they can control all 3 branches of government and take away a woman's right to choose. That's why they want to replace Bill Clinton, but we won't let them. They want to give health insurance ripoff artists a license to change Medicare to let this program for our seniors wither on the vine. That's why they want to replace Bill Clinton. but we won't let them. They want to outlaw all affirmative action and many other measures to reach out to those who want to reach up. That's why they want to replace Bill Clinton, but we won't let them. They want to cut education and undermine our schools, put down teachers instead of lifting up students. That's why they want to replace Bill Clinton, but we won't let them. They want to give free rein to lobbyists for the biggest polluters in America to rewrite our environmental laws, allowing more poison in our air and water, and then auction off our natural wonders piece by piece. That's why they want to replace Bill Clinton. But we won't let them. We will not, we cannot, we must not let them. And you know what? We can make Bill Clinton's job a lot easier by making Dick Gephardt Speaker of the House and Tom Daschle Senate Majority Leader. You can judge a president by the enemies he is willing to make. You know someone who's been attacked as much as Bill Clinton is doing something right. America has never changed without a president willing to confront the status quo and take on the forces of greed and indifference. It has changed only when we have had a president with the vision to tackle the real problems that really matter to our families. That's what this president has done. Because families don't eat or breathe political slogans. They thrive or fail according to how they handle each day's challenges. When your alarm goes off in the morning, if your family is like mine, everybody starts rushing around getting ready for school and work. When one of your children reaches for cereal and fruit, you shouldn't have to worry about whether the food is safe. That's why, just this month, President Clinton brought farmers and environmentalists together and signed an historic law to keep dangerous pesticides off our fruits and vegetables. When you pour a glass of water for each member of the family at the table, you shouldn't have to wonder, should I buy bottled water? We really can't afford it. That's why President Clinton signed the Safe Drinking Water Act, to give families more peace of mind that their water will be pure and safe. When you notice your child staring at a television set and watching violent and explicit images he or she is not old enough to handle, you shouldn't be forced to choose between throwing the TV out of the house and monitoring every second that child watches. That is why, last month, the president persuaded the broadcasters to agree to air 3 hours of quality children's educational programming every single week. And that's why we're giving parents a new tool, the V-chip, to keep violent and explicit programming out of their homes and away from their children. When our children turn on the TV, let them learn how to read and add and spell and think, not how to kill. If one of your children has an operation or some other serious health problem, you shouldn't have to choose between taking care of that child or keeping your job. That is why Bill Clinton fought to pass the Family and Medical Leave Act so parents can get time off to work to care for a sick child, bond with a newborn, or tend to an aging relative. When your children do well in school, and head toward graduation. They shouldn't have to wonder about whether their family can afford to send them to college. That is why President Clinton expanded scholarships, student loans, and Pell Grants. And that's why he wants to give a tax credit to pay $1,500 per year for tuition to make college more affordable for every single American family. If the business where you work is changing in ways that cause you to think about getting a different kind of job, you ought to be able to get the training and education you need to learn new skills and plan for the future. That's why President Clinton is proposing a tax credit. So if you go to a community college, you can take every single dollar you pay right off your taxes. If you take responsibility, President Clinton will give you the opportunity to learn. And if you see an opportunity to move to a better job, you shouldn't feel forced to stay in your old job just because that's the only way you can keep your health insurance. Even if you have some pre-existing condition, you ought to be able to change jobs and not lose your coverage. That's why President Clinton signed the Kennedy-Kassebaum law. Americans shouldn't have to feel imprisoned in their homes because of crime. We have a right to streets and neighborhoods that are safe. That's why President Clinton fought for the Brady Bill and the assault weapons ban, and that's why he's putting 100,000 new community police officers on our streets and sidewalks. These problems are real, and they must be addressed. It's been a long time since we've had a president so in tune with the issues that touch the real lives of America's families. It's been a long time since we've had a president willing to fight the powerful forces that often seem to stand in the way. Some of the most powerful forces that do the most harm are often hard to see and even harder to understand. When I was a child, my family was attacked by an invisible force that was then considered harmless. My sister Nancy was older than me. There were only the two of us, and I loved her more than life itself. She started smoking when she was 13 years old. The connection between smoking and lung cancer had not yet been established. But years later, the cigarettes had taken their toll. It hurt very badly to watch her savaged by that terrible disease. Her husband, Frank, and all of us who loved her so much tried to get her to stop smoking. Of course, she should have, but she couldn't. When she was 45, she had a lung removed. A year later, the disease had come back and she returned to the hospital. We all took turns staying with her. One day, I was called to come quickly because things had taken a turn for the worse. By then, her pain was nearly unbearable, and as a result, they used very powerful painkillers. And eventually it got so bad they had to use such heavy doses that she could barely retain consciousness. We sometimes didn't know if she could hear what we were saying or recognize us. But when I responded to that call and walked into the hospital room that day, as soon as I turned the corner, someone said, "Al's here." She looked up, and from out of that haze, her eyes focused intensely right at me. She couldn't speak, but I felt clearly, I knew she was forming a question. Do you bring me hope? All of us had tried to find whatever new treatment or new approach might help. But all I could do was to say back to her with all the gentleness in my heart, I love you. And then I knelt by her bed and held her hand. And in a very short time, her breathing became labored. And then she breathed her last breath. Tomorrow morning, another 13-year-old girl will start smoking. I love her too. 3,000 young people in America will start smoking tomorrow. 1,000 of them will die a death not unlike my sister's. And that is why, until I draw my last breath, I will pour my heart and soul into the cause of protecting our children from the dangers of smoking. To tobacco advertising aimed at getting our children addicted. He proposed the first ever comprehensive plan to protect children from smoking, to ban tobacco advertising aimed at our children, and to ban it for good. It took courage for Bill Clinton to take on the tobacco companies. I promise you, it is no accident that no president has ever been willing to do it before. But coming from him, that's no surprise. I've seen him get up day after day and make the toughest decisions, and always by asking, what is right for the American people. As a result, with Bill Clinton's leadership, our nation is moving forward with confidence. Americans don't believe our best days are behind us. We see better days ahead because we have the courage to meet our challenges and protect our values. And now, once again, in pursuit of the American dream, we are crossing the bridge to the future. 33 years ago this very day, one American told us about his dream. Martin Luther King Jr. stood in the shadow of the Lincoln Memorial on that August afternoon and described the America that he saw in his mind's eye. He called on our nation to open the doors of opportunity to all of God's children. How do we build an America worthy of this dream? Is it with brick and mortar? Is it with secondhand smoke and rearview mirrors? Or do we build it in the nearest well-raised child by shepherding, guiding, and protecting our children's souls? We build a better America. The American spirit lives within that child. The child grows up to believe in it, to add new vision to it. It's not a vision of a distant future, nor of a remote past, but a constant accumulation of our best instincts and our noblest aspirations. From the spirit of our founding fathers to the courage of today's families, it is one vision. It is an American vision. It is the vision of President Bill Clinton. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.